Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Tulsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the At the Show podcast. My name is Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my co-host Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, my guy?
Doing good. How are you?
I am very, very good. This week at work sucked, but I have officially completed my schooling. I am no longer going to go to school anymore, and that's what my wife has told me she's going to hold me to. So after 2 master's degrees and a digital marketing certificate, I am completely done, my friend. I was done with it on Sunday.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I feel like I just got rolled.
The last time when you said you were done, this is news to me that you even got more. So look at that. Sneaking
my wife told me I couldn't quit school.
A little bit. Hey, well, you know what? You got to live a little bit of life. And honestly, a man can only have so many degrees.
That is true.
But that only being said is that's congratulations on completing what you have. That's not no easy feat.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. How's your week been?
Well, it hasn't been as awesome as needing to stop something that sounds like it's been weighing on you, like going to school. Hopefully going to school for me, it's going to be wrapping up here soon. Mm-hmm. It'll be the summertime, and which means more opportunities for myself and for the Sadistic Penguin Studios. So I just want to say thank you, Yumper, for again joining me tonight, because truth be told, I needed this week, and I'm glad you're here for me, buddy.
No problem, my friend. No problem. I did miss our show last week. I was going to go to the game, but had some stuff I actually had to take care of, so I wouldn't have been able to make it anyway, even not going to the game. But we are back this week, and we're talking about a cult classic that is turning the ripe old age of 40, my man. But before we get to that, let's get into our first segment, my dude, and let's go into what we've been watching.
Let's do it.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what were you watching this week, Tone?
I came with a couple comedies this week. Okay, I've watched this hundreds of times. Is Election, a really awesome movie by Alexander Payne, coming out in 1999, starring everyone from Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon to the amazing acting Chris Klein is also in this film, though he is not the most amazing actor, but we still like him. But Election, though, the directing of this movie, the same director that's gone on to direct such movies that I enjoy, like Sideways. I just really think that he does a good job in this movie, and this is one of my favorite Reese Witherspoon movies, because I think she plays against her usual character type, and they get some really good dark comedy going in this movie that I enjoy a lot. I like that. I don't say I like, but it's funny that Matthew Broderick gets stung by a bee, like on his eye. He falls for like his friend's wife and tries to like leave his wife, and it all just backfires in his face. Meanwhile, there's a school election going on. There's a lot of mirroring to like things that are going on in our current culture, but it's definitely awesome and a fun, dark comedy. Have you ever seen Election?
Yes, I remember this movie a long time ago. Very, very dark comedy. It was kind of funny when I first saw it, seeing Ferris Bueller play the role that Matthew Broderick does.
Well, that's what makes it so funny, because he's so in Ferris Bueller, he's like the coolest guy in the world. in this, he's the direct opposite. He's the least coolest guy in the world, which it's kind of sad, but it's funny.
Yeah, good pick, man. Really, good film.
Thank you. And second up here is Throw Mama from the Train, another black comedy. I am a fan of dark black comedies, and I remember hearing about this movie when I was probably too young to watch the movie, but just hearing that title, Throw Mama from the Train. And what's so funny is that, like, I ended up like seeing it, I think young, but like every time like my mom would do something to bother me or something, I would be like, "You're acting like Throw Mama from the Train." But I just said that, like I didn't know the character's name in the movie. And it's funny because tonight we're going to be going deeper into some of Anne Ramsey's work, of course, as you know. But Throw Mama from the Train is such a great comedy that she does such a great job. And what I find awesome is that when you think about it, Danny DeVito directs this movie, and for him to have to direct, Anne Ramsey, Billy Crystal, Kim Greist, it's actually pretty awesome. You know, Academy Award for Supporting Actress nomination was there for the film, but just a really funny comedy. And I think Danny DeVito also, I like his character Owen in this movie because he doesn't really, again, you watch him as Penguin, you watch him as Owen, you watch him even in Matilda, which I don't even like, but you watch him in that and you say to yourself, wow, or Hoffa, you can go all over. And DeVito's actually a really good actor. And Throw Mama from the Train is definitely no exception to being a great comedy.
Wait, you don't like Matilda?
I could say that from the fact is like I like it, but I've never actually sat and been like my sister's watched it. Katie loves it. But not from the fact where I'd be like, hey, dude, let me talk to you about Matilda tonight. But I don't hate it.
But he has such great one-liners in that film.
See, and to be honest, I'm ignorant because I haven't watched that movie or actually sat down for 20, 30 years. So you even saying excellent one-liners, next week, next time we're on the show or whenever, I will definitely have a different opinion on it.
That's a Garcia Brothers classic. Me and my brother always quote Danny DeVito in that video, especially with the when he tells his son when he's choking, he goes, "To your food, you're an animal." just little stuff like that. But Throw Mama from the Train is a hilarious film, another dark comedy. Anne Ramsey is so awesome, and I think she was nominated for an Oscar for that film.
Yeah, she was.
Danny DeVito is also, the mama's boy, but secretly wants to kill his mom. Persona. Yeah, DeVito's a great actor, wonderful actor. He doesn't get enough credit. He's known for comedies, but very, very versatile actor. I would love to see him in more stuff before he goes into the sunset.
Not a bad director either, because he directs Hoffa, he directs Death Smoochy. He's got some good movies under his belt.
Yeah. And he's still going, man. Still at he's like 77, still.
Yeah.
But so I noticed that you put Jack Reacher. One of my views.
I know you watched the TV show. You wanted him at the TV show. You just put Reacher, and then when I hit Reacher, and then I'm like, well, we'll just roll this. But you watched the television show.
Yeah. So me and my wife do have a tradition where we watch the Reacher show. She watches it because she likes the Reacher guy and how he looks, but she also likes the plot of the film, the plot of the series. But we watched this season 3. We finished all 8 episodes. Actually, we watched the last episode yesterday. To be honest with you, I didn't think this season was as good as the last 2. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. There's a lot of stuff that was kind of corny. And I think Alan Richardson, who does the Reacher character, kind of hammed it up a little bit. That's just me. And I like him. For this season, have you watched any of it this season?
Not this season, no, not this season at all. No, so I can't say if it was good or not. But if you're a fan of the show, and it's a lot of shows, it's a growing trend sometimes that some shows could last multiple seasons at the same level as season 1 and 2, and sometimes maybe it goes off a little track, but it may come back.
Yeah. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as the first 2, in my opinion. But there's a character in there called Susan Duffy. She's played by Sonia Cassidy, and she's an English actress. She does a horrible Boston accent. It's really bad. Me and my wife were laughing at it, but yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it. It's still a good show. I would still highly recommend the show if you haven't seen it. Read the books as well. They're very, very good. And the other thing I watched, which is something I've been trying to get around to watching for the longest time, and with this week, besides studying for my exam on Sunday and passing, I celebrated by watching the Guy Ritchie film, The Gentleman, with Matthew McConaughey, Colin Farrell, uh, Hugh Grant in it. It's just, I haven't seen it. I right away in the beginning of the film, I loved how the film opened with a bunch of pop art. You got Charlie Hunnam in it from Sons of Anarchy, Michelle Dockery. And I said that's Cumberland Gap, the song that's what plays in the beginning of the movie. It's on Netflix right now. This has to be probably my favorite Guy Ritchie film, and that's saying a lot because I do love Guy Ritchie's films. But after watching this, Snatch has always been my favorite, but this one that kind of edges out Snatch a little bit. I just really like the storyline. I like Colin Farrell's character, even though he's not in there a lot. I think Hugh Grant does a wonderful job as the narrator and kind of like the storyteller. I just like the way it's shot when it's doing it kind of does like flashback scenes, but as the story progresses, it shows Hugh Grant's throwing in his own like fantasy of what could have happened, and he gets called out on it. It's just stuff like that, along with the Guy Ritchie humor, really, really made me fall in love with this film. Have you seen this film?
Oh, welcome to Mr. Mr. Burton's. I am Mr. The Gentleman is probably one of my favorite movies in the last 10 years, let alone Guy Ritchie's movie, for so many different reasons. To me, I laughed just as much in The Gentleman as I did in Throw Mama from the Train in Election. There's some great freaking one-liners in that movie. Even to the point where you put it on your list. I think that's probably why I accidentally put up the wrong Reachers, because I was so excited you picked The Gentleman, and we got to talk about it just a little bit tonight. Because at some point, maybe in the future, we can do an actual full breakdown, because it's just a great movie. My point is that the actors, you mentioned all of them. There isn't an actor, even Jeremy Strong does a great job. There isn't an actor in the movie that does a bad job. I got something kind of going on a little bit professionally, a little bit, and this is the part that I always think about when you have to talk about this.
Talking to me about the laws of the jungle. What was it? Something about being beneath me, silver on back. There's only one rule in this fucking jungle. When the lion's hungry, he eats.
Now, there's going to be, maybe sometime, you never know. You run into somebody who you may not want to see, or they don't want to see you. And in my mind, when I run into that person, I always see myself as the McConaughey, and the other person sees themselves as the other character, the one who's going to put you in your place. When the truth of the matter is you don't talk that way to anybody. And that guy realized right there that Matthew McConaughey was the man. And honestly, I think about just the camera. I was watching that scene, and even earlier, me and Katie, we left the restaurant when we were eating, and I just put on the first 2 seconds, and Katie already knew it was The Gentleman, because this was the last movie we saw before the movie theater shut down. So in my mind, this is the last movie I'll always remember before the pandemic. And as you stated, some of these acting in this movie is just so great.
Yeah, great performances by all around. Really, really, really good fleshed out story.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of the story that unravels itself, but it has to be done in such a good way that it keeps you interested. Like, perfect example would be The Usual Suspects. Kevin Spacey's, verbal Kent telling that story. Now, Usual Suspects is on a whole different level, but I think this film does a great job and does its best, effort to match that kind of rhythm in terms of storytelling. And it's a really, really fun ride. Like, I really enjoyed all of it. It's one of those films that I was like, I actually was wondering what was going to happen to Mickey, the main character, which is Matthew McConaughey's character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he going to die? Is it, I don't want to give too much away because I want people to actually see it, but it was like so much stuff going in. I'm like, damn, like what? So it just gave me so many turns, but it came out really good in the end. Like, how I liked how it didn't have a stupid ending. It wrapped up all the ends, the loose ends, but it did in such a good way that I was happy with it.
Probably one of my favorite scenes is after what I showed you, I think it is, and it's like Jeremy Strong and Matthew McConaughey are out by the like the dock or whatever,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, like Jeremy Strong's doing his usual shtick or whatever," and McConaughey's like, "Yeah, let me show you something over here," and then all of a sudden Jeremy Strong like changes his whole entire like demeanor or whatever, and like that's the whole entire movie. I think Hugh Grant really is the bow that ties the movie together, because I don't see this performance in Hugh Grant when I'm watching 9 Months in the 90s with Tom Arnold. You know what I mean? But Hugh Grant's actually a really good actor. I've seen him recently in that Heretic, that new movie. It's new scary movie, but he does good work, and Colin Farrell too. That role, that scene when they're in that restaurant, and the way he is talking and the way it all is. I mean, you brought up Snatch. To me, Snatch is like Reservoir Dogs to this is being Pulp Fiction. It's more fleshed out, it's more mature. But
And he throws a little, homage to Snatch with him wearing a tracksuit, and then his guys are in a tracksuit.
Yeah.
But this film, just I like the performances are so great. It's just, even not Colin Farrell's character, but what's his name? Dry Eye.
Yeah,
His character is hilarious too, and he's supposed to be the antagonist of the film, they say, but he's just like, the stuff he says is funny, his interactions is funny, the wife and Rosalind is funny. It's like really, really well fleshed out, and I know they have a series now on it that was, I believe, made this year. That's on last year. It's called A Gentleman's, a UK series, and it's actually a spinoff of this, with somebody taking over, somebody moving into a home that is one of his refinery, his spots. So that actually something I might check out. And it's Guy Ritchie produced. Back to Hugh Grant though, he actually filmed his part in 5 days from what I was reading.
Ooh.
And he had so much dialogue that he actually created a cheat sheet with his script. So when he went to go shoot, he would have it. Somebody broke into his car and stole his stuff, including his cheat sheet and script. And he had to go in, basically perform it the way he did. And he did masterfully but he shot that in 5 days. That's crazy.
Yeah,
he has so much dialogue.
He does like you said, I mean, as you brought up, like their characters that are in the movie are fleshed out so well. I mean, the script is, like one of Guy Ritchie's best. You know what I mean? That is definitely a good thing. And Henry Golding, as you said, is Dry Eye. Definitely that scene I played with with the Matthew McConaughey. He makes that scene just as much as McConaughey does, because he tries to bait him there at the beginning. He's like, you're going to give you the money. And he's like, pretty much like, yeah, that's not what I'm worth. But you need both characters to make a scene work. And it's all over the movie. And
yeah,
Ritchie wrote it. So I had a feeling he did, because it looks like he produced it. He wrote it. He came up with the story. Charlie Hunnam does a good job too. There's nobody who doesn't. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's excellently acted. If the opening scenes don't pull you in, just even from the opening credits, like I don't know what to tell you. Like that's what pulled me in, was just the opening credits and scene. I loved everything. I thought it was visually shot very well. So if you have a chance, check out The Gentleman. It's actually on Netflix right now. You can watch it. Very, very worth it. Seeing. That's what we watched this week. Let us know what you watched over at the show pod on the X, Twitter, or whatever, or on Facebook at Six Penguin Studios, or you can just leave it in the comments here on the YouTube comments, my man. Tone, before we get to our main event here, our main topic, I do have some news for you. One of them is dealing with a TV show. I didn't put this in the notes, but during a TV show, I just actually saw this before I signed on. For those who have watched the show, I'm a big fan of Suits. Well, Suits LA just got canceled after one season. And you know what? It deserves to be canceled because it sucked. I'm sorry. It was really bad. It got to the point, I watched the first 2 episodes and I did not like it. I didn't even watch the Harvey Specter returning. Apparently, Louis Litt's returning. I couldn't get into it, man. Have you watched any of it?
Oh no, no. I honestly I haven't watched much of just regular Suits. You seem to watch. I watch 1,000 shows, and you seem to watch the couple I've never watched. But that's what's great about it. You're covering the ground here. We're covering ground. But I've only heard good things about Suits from you and a lot of other people.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into Suits LA. It's unfortunate. It's the second spinoff that's been canceled from Suits, in including Pearson, which was based off Jessica Pearson's character. Right now, the actors are kind of older. I don't know if they want to do maybe a movie. I think a movie would probably be best, kind of like they did Deadwood with Mike and Harvey Specter's characters. Maybe him in Seattle as a kind of a closed ends of the show. I would like that, but just don't try to revive it. It's done. It wasn't that great. It was poorly written, and I don't think they caught the essence of the original series. But that's just me.
One thing I'll speak on, and I'll just say this, and I think what is great is the fact that Suits was successful based on the fact that, wasn't it on USA?
Mm-hmm.
And USA isn't known for having lots of good scripted television shows. So you say to yourself, that's awesome that Suits did great, but now let's try to do 2 spinoffs. And where are the spinoffs located?
One, I believe, was on USA, and that's Pearson, and I think the other one was on NBC.
Okay, something like that. So again, and it's been some time, right, from the other one?
Yeah, so Suits ended in, I believe, 2018. Pearson ended even before Suits, the original show, ended. It only lasted a season because and that was based in Chicago, which I thought was kind of crazy, following on the main character.
So
and then this one just ended.
If Reacher, let's say, canceled right now, okay, in 6 years they bring it back with a different guy, are you as interested to jump into it when there's other better shows probably out there with your time?
I think with Reacher, it's different because Reacher was the first Reacher I remember being played was Tom Cruise. And this Reacher, of course, is closer to him in the book. So I think with that character, you can kind of switch it around because it's a character from a book.
That's true. That is.
But in terms
I'm saying more in the fact of just the time period of anything.
Yeah, I think it's just way too long for it. Just like a perfect example, my man, Blues Brothers 2000. They waited till 2000 to make the Blues Brothers when.
Well, let's
20
go
years
back.
after
Unfortunately, you're right. I will agree with that point. But here's like this huge entire, I think, like side branch. And this is where I'm going to hammer home a point that you've made. Come on, man. Jim Belushi and John fucking Goodman. I was there when that movie was released.
John Goodman.
So the fact is that this movie had no business being made with those two guys. And Aykroyd was in there too to begin with.
Yeah, but Jim Belushi wasn't in Blues Brothers 2000.
Yeah, but he generally was a part in the background with all this shit.
So
the problem is that the movie was so fucking stupid that they should have rode with Jim. Instead, they rode it with Dan and Connor, which is great. I love John Goodman. I could talk about that all day long, but it was stupid. Like, you could have put that movie out in 1990, and with those same people, it would have been stupid. 83, you need Belushi.
This would have been a few times that I would say to have Jim Belushi in the film. He actually performed at the Super Bowl,
and I was wrong. I thought he was in it, but that's the problem, is that he should have been in it, like you said.
And I want to like it. Even as a kid, I didn't like it. But I'm just saying, as an example, waiting too long. Even though Suits has only been out for since 2018 was the last episode. They caught a lot of traction just through COVID, because people were binging it on Peacock, and then they started binging it on Netflix when it was released on Netflix. That's how I got caught up on it, to where I watched it on Netflix. No, actually it was Prime, then Netflix. So it was, but I think it was the most watched series on Netflix for like 2 years.
You might find it not to be, but I truly find it cardinal sin, and I'm not saying you or anyone else, but if you have never watched a quality show like a Righteous Gemstones, but you're willing to give, and if the main characters are in the show, are any of the main characters in this new spin-off show?
No, they come back as supporting characters in like a couple episodes.
Well, still, okay, I'll still give it some credit, because in my mind, what I think of is like it's like the new, what's that called? Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, where you get new people in there, but it has no really anyone from the old one to have a connection. Where at least you're telling me I could be excited to watch the show if I like Suits, because you're telling me at least some of the characters make some appearances that could make it exciting. Not main characters, that's okay. You need new characters to make it fresh, but
Yeah, I just think the writing wasn't that great. That's what it was. That's what killed it.
Real quick, what made the original? What made it the best for you? The show.
I think what made it was that character arcs really, really built, I think, my love for that show. Rick Kaufman's character, Louis Litt, you hate him in the beginning, and he's probably my favorite character throughout the whole show. Just his arc of, and he's like a ambiguous character, so he's not good, or he's mostly good, but he's also does a lot of bad shit. And it's mostly like he can't get it out of his own way, his character. They had a really, the first 7 seasons is basically the story of Mike, which is the supporting character to Gabriel Macht, Patrick Adams, his character. It's mostly through his eyes. Like, the story's about him mostly because he's a person that basically has a photographic memory. He didn't go to law school, didn't even go to finish college, and he basically like talked his way into becoming a fake lawyer. And Harvey's basically knows he's a fake lawyer just to piss off his boss. And Harvey, basically thinking he's untouchable, brings him in. And the whole point, like the first few seasons, are trying to make sure he doesn't get caught, while him becoming this great, business mind, but also fighting against his own morals because he wants to help people, and the kind of money they're making is from corporations, which is corporate law. There's a lot of scumbags in corporate law. So stuff like that, trying, way to concept. Then you have, all those side stuff in there. That's what made me like that show. The writing, I thought, was pretty good for the first 4 seasons. And then it kind of, as any show does, kind of tapers down a little bit. Now, Suits LA, it didn't have any of that. And I wasn't expecting to have, blow me out of the water, like entertainment. I just expected to have a good story. And I couldn't really, even my wife who liked Suits was like, yeah, I can't get into this. It's not as interesting as, there was no really interesting characters for me to really, gravitate towards. So that kind of killed my my love for that particular show.
Okay.
But we do have other news. If you were living under a rock, you probably didn't hear that we have a new pope. He was announced yesterday with the white smoke. He is a Chicago native, and people are really excited about that. His name is Robert Francis Prevost, and I guess he's going to be known as Pope Leo the 14th. And it came out first that he was a Cubs fan, and the Cubs put out on their marquee that he's the Pope's a Cubs fan, and I saw all this Cubs merch for the Pope. And then it came out that he's actually a Sox fan and attended the Sox World Series in 2005. There's pictures of him there, I guess. Here's a image of him, presenting himself to his congregates. As you can see, he is Chicago made. He has a Bears little hoodie, a big old cross with the Chicago White Sox. Even though his thing says Chicago, but he has a Sox hat, and he's got an Old Style right there. Somebody's drinking an Old Style, listening to him with a burger on his side.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool to hear that the Chicago has now. Chicago is the only city to have a pope and a president.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
But it's pretty cool, Tom.
It is. It's awesome. I guess, to be fair, I'm going to make a little bit of a side joke. I guess I can say I'm from Chicago. And you'd be like, you're not from Chicago, Tony. You live in Northwest Indiana. And I'd say, we're from Dalton, me and the Pope. So wouldn't I also be, if he's from Chicago, your boy over here is from Chicago too. And so I guess there's Richard Roper and some other cool people. So
is it Roper from Chicago? I thought he grew up in
He said Dalton, because then he made a post this week, which I thought was awesome. It said, I guess I'm now the second most popular person from Dalton. And it was Pope is ahead of him now.
Oh, well, good for him.
Yeah.
I had this conversation too, and people are like, "Oh, you're not from Chicago." My thing is this: if I'm talking to somebody from Illinois, well, I'm born and raised in Chicago. I was born in Chicago and raised in Chicago. But if I'm from somewhere else, like say a suburb like Burbank or LaGrange, and I go and I tell somebody, that it's not from Illinois, it's from say New York, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm from Burbank. You'll be like, California? No, Illinois. No, you fucking say I'm from Chicago because that's the only place people know that's close. So I don't really care, whatever. It says he was born in Chicago. I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now. He was born in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, of course of course Wikipedia said that. He said he was born in Dalton. Like he said it.
Yeah, but he says born at Mercy Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, and grew up in Dalton.
Being born again, this Richard Roper, he's the one who said it. I'm going by what he said. So you can go by what you're reading. It's different when the man actually says it. But even that being said, the Pope isn't from Chicago, and that's the whole point of the conversation is people keep saying he's from Chicago, but he was, again, born in Dalton. So that's the point. Not Richard Roper. The Pope is said Chicago, and then I'm from Chicago. So
Vatican News says he's from Chicago too. So I don't know.
But what else are they going to say? He's from Dalton.
I could have said Dalton, Illinois.
Again, nobody, and I'm not trying to be hurtful here, but they should. But why isn't anybody? Well, because is Dalton a place that you're going to go driving around right now? If you're
nobody wants to go vacation in Dalton, Tony.
Well, there you go. But Chicago, come on down. We got those sports teams.
Yeah,
but the Pope,
true.
though, very exciting though, because I just think of like my mom. She would have been ecstatic because I pointed today to the kids. Can you imagine the whole entire world that the Pope is like right here from where we're from? That's crazy.
Caitlin Reese says the Sox are so bad, God sent the Pope to help out. Oh man, if they don't win tonight, blame the Pope.
Blame the Pope.
But that was some good news, to come to the Chicagoland area way. Also, Tony, you told me to check out the new trailer for Weapons, which is basically directed by the same person who directed Barbarian. I saw the trailer today, and like I told you, it looks very, very interesting. I would love to see that film. It comes out on my birthday, which I thought was pretty cool. So Zach Kreger's Weapons comes out. Tell me what really interests you in that film when you from the trailer from what you saw. And Tony, we lost Tony, as I just noticed. I was looking it up. But since we lost Tony, the trailer itself is really, really interesting. Just with the kids going out and being disappeared. You have a teacher that's probably blamed for them. And then you have, the kids coming back. And I don't know if it's a series of dreams or a series of real events. Because the trailer kind of pulls you in a little bit. But I really, really thought it was really, really interesting. I will be definitely checking it out. Like I said, it's released actually on my birthday, which I thought was really interesting.
Interesting. The movie's coming out on your birthday?
Yeah. So tell me what you think about Weapons, my man. I was asking that before you cut out.
I was kind of talking to what I wanted to tell you about it is the actual in the trailer. Well, first of all, I read the whole thing that got me is that I didn't really watch the trailer until I went and read this review with Kreger's about the new movie, where he started talking about how he where the story, it's going to even go even more crazier than Barbarian did, like off the beaten path. And like the trailer, you don't really know where it's going. Like I showed it to Katie earlier. I mean, there's parts there at the end where they're doing those quick shots where someone's setting themselves on fire, someone stabbing themselves in the face with a knife. There's just a bunch of crazy kids are running a lot. You don't know what's going on. And that's what draws me into it. The music. I love Josh Brolin. He sounds like he's very awesome in the movie. I love Julia Garner. She even made a very bad movie called The Wolfman that I just had to sit through on Peacock. Better. But I want to check it out.
Yeah, and it looks like Kreger's in 2025. It was announced that Kreger could write and direct a film based on the Resident Evil franchise. He would write one. That's kind of cool. So maybe we'll have some good Resident Evil films. You know, I did enjoy the other ones. They were corny, but I liked them.
Even more interesting is I'll never forget. Hey, Tony. Yeah, Dad. I got to tell you about this movie I watched. What is that? It's called Miss March. This movie's hilarious. You ever see Miss March with Zach Cregers and
No.
the whitest guy? You never. Oh my god! Again, it's a very raunchy comedy, but Zach Cregers. I don't know if you're familiar. He was in a sketch comedy group called The Whitest Kid You Know, and they were. This was like the movie they made based upon the guys in that troupe, and it's really raunchily hilarious. I'm curious to hear your thoughts if you were ever to watch this movie. But it's funny. But again, it's cool to see Zach Cregers, who was a comedian actor, actually putting out some real possible. Well, first one was a banger. This one's hopefully going to be just as good.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Looking forward to it. Well, with that, Tone, let's transition into our main event. The reason we are talking about the 1985 film Goonies is because it's going to be 40 years on June 7th since this film has been released. It is a cult classic. It's a personal favorite of mine and yours, for sure. It's one of those films that sticks with you, and you can always go back and watch it. My son loves this film. So many memorable characters. Also, probably like all the characters in the film have gone on pretty much to big things. I mean, Sean Astin, Josh Brolin. You have Data. I can't remember Data's. I pronounced Data's full name, so I'm sorry. I have to call him Data. But
when you put Data, you know what I
KQ1.
thought of when I first saw Data? I thought of what you probably haven't watched it, but like Star Trek: The Next Generation. Data. He was in
Data.
It. But I know what you mean.
KQ Kwan. I'm sorry, KQ Kwan was in it. You know, and then you have Jeff Cohen, who isn't really big on starring in the and starring films. He's big behind the scenes because he's an entertainment lawyer, and of course Corey Feldman, who this was in the heyday of the Coreys. Great film that we decided to just do a deep dive in today and go back into our deep dives. So, when was the first time you saw this movie?
Again, we're talking like Stand By Me, all the classics of the 80s, right around that same time. I would say 88, 89. This is honestly one that was it was a favorite, I think, from pretty much everyone I met from the same age group. Never ever met anybody who ever really dogged this movie at all. If anyone had ever said anything negative about it, it was only me. And it was only because, let's just say I like Stand By Me more. But that's stupid to say that this movie just isn't as good just because I like one movie more. And I realized that as I got older. But it's a great movie.
Yeah, totally a great movie. I was introduced to this film by my mom. We watched it. She had the VHS. We watched it, me and my brother, and it's become one of our favorites that we continue to watch even to this day. So as a 40-year-old man, I still watch the Goonies. And I know the quote is always said. I mean, one of our friends of the show, Zoe, always says the line, "Goonies never die," which I always crack up on. Sometimes he'll just text me that when he's saying something about, something that we liked as kids or something. He'll text me, we'll say "Goonies never die," which I always laugh about. But so many memorable scenes in this film, and I'm really, really happy to do this deep dive, man.
Let's go. I'm very excited.
Cool. Let's get into it with our part in the development of this story.
In my thoughts, I use the technique of positive visualization.
So the concept of the Goonies came from the brainchild of Steven Spielberg. While working on The Color Purple in 1985, Spielberg wondered, what do children do on rainy days? One would wonder, why would Steven Spielberg be thinking about this? But I thought that when I was reading this, but it's Steven Spielberg, and he said, what adventures might they dream of? Maybe he was just bored making the Color Purple. But this concept sparked a question that he wanted to be answered. He didn't hand the idea to director Richard Donner and screenwriter Chris Columbus, who you might know from the Home Alone series. He's also done Harry Potter. And they began developing a full story for this. Spielberg officially is credited with the story, and Columbus is fresh off running Gremlins. They penned the screenplay. So his idea evolved into an original adventure about a group of neighborhood misfits trying to save their homes from foreclosure. As anybody who lived through the recession, this kind of hits home a little bit, and it kind of hits home, in the 80s, Reagan economics was kind of going on as well. So he tried to keep it more towards, the times of what's going on, as well as try to appeal to the everyday child. Columbus expanded Spielberg's seed idea into a tale of kids discovering an old pirate chest, treasure map, and embarking on a treasure hunt to save their Goondocks community, which I always thought was hilarious when they put this into Goondocks. Along the way, they find colorful villains, the criminal Fratelli family and the legend of the One-Eye Willie pirate ship, blending like childlike fantasy into a booby-trapped action set pieces. This came into kind of like a Indiana-style treasure hunting film with kids. This is young Indiana Jones before young Indiana Jones, which I always loved that fact that you had Spielberg who invented the Goonies, and then you also had, George Lucas with Indiana Jones. Like those were their two things, besides Star Wars, of course, for Lucas, but they kind of like fed off each other and they had the same mind for things, which I always thought was kind of cool when it came to films. They pitched the story to Ambien and Warner Brothers Pictures. Of course, they were backed by Spielberg's company, Amblin. The Goonies was pitched, and with him as a producer, as a major selling point, of course, Spielberg was already a big name then. E.T., Jaws, he's doing The Color Purple, which was nominated for Oscars. The project quickly secured a deal at Warner Brothers, which agreed to finance and distribute it. In fact, it was greenlit with a hefty $19 million budget, largely because of the high-profile talent involved, Spielberg and Donner's reputations as director. At the time, an original kids' adventure of this scale was a risky bet, but Spielberg's clout gave the studio confidence. So basically, the studio was basically going off its clout. The Goonies began production in 1984 under the Warner Brothers banner, without the need for extensive shopping for other studios. So there was no real story to who was going to reject this. They basically took it on right away because of Spielberg. And if any other studio was going to hear about it, if Spielberg wasn't attached, they probably would have took it. So it was kind of good that Spielberg went to his spot at Warner Brothers and basically said he was going to produce. So it kind of put the show kind of up and running and had them basically be confident in making this film, especially for $19 million. That's a lot of money in 1985, $19 million, Tom.
It is a lot, especially when you're pretty much banking your dollars on some unknown young actors.
Yeah, and according to the inflation calculator, that's 56 million today. A lot of dough there. A lot of dough. So for the director, we already mentioned that Spielberg had given the script or his idea to Christopher Columbus and also Richard Donner, who eventually became the director. Spielberg originally considered that he might direct the Goonies himself, but with The Color Purple taking up most of his time with editing, and then he didn't want to delay the project, so he just chose Donner to direct. And Donner was coming off, his major successes in Superman 2. He directed The Omen as well, which made him a reliable choice for this big budget film, and it kind of gave a little confidence and ease to the studio, because even though Spielberg wasn't directing, they had somebody they were confident could make a good film and not waste their money. When reading the script, Donner loved it and actually asked Spielberg, "Why'd you pick me? Why aren't you directing it?" And Spielberg replied, "I can't because I'm doing another one. I picked you because you're a big kid as I am, or maybe bigger." This is the vote of confidence that Donner needed, which I thought was kind of funny because he was writing the script and he loved his own script. So when he gave it to Spielberg, he's like, "Well, why did you direct it?" He goes, "Because you're a bigger kid than me and I can't do it," which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. I was just laughing over here because I was imagining a world where, like, remember that one guy who got upset when people would say Spielberg directed Poltergeist, and it was actually but imagine we started one where we got mad because we're going to say Spielberg started really actually directed Goonies, not Donner.
I don't know. Maybe that Twitter account was
Donner had come after us, like all of a sudden out of the woodwork.
I wonder if that guy has a YouTube account. He'll probably find us and say, "Well, actually, Toby Hooper directed Poltergeist." But I'm sorry. When I was on Twitter, I would kind of bait that guy by saying, "I know you would too," and so would Brian. We just bait him to get him to come out and talk about it. But in terms of casting and character selection, a bunch of young actors were chosen. The main protagonist of the film is Mikey Walsh, which eventually went to Sean Astin. Donner really, really liked Astin because he was a newcomer. He even accidentally cursed during the audition, prompting Spielberg to walk out for a moment. But he still won the part. Many young actors were seen for Mikey. Future Stand By Me star Will Wheaton was among them who tried out and recalls that Sean got the Goonies while he himself landed Stand By Me a year later. Astin's youthful sincerity and energy fit the every kid leader of the group, and he was Spielberg's pick. Astin has mentioned that he had an opportunity to do Joe Dante's Explorers at the same time, but chose the Goonies instead, underscoring how sought after the project was for young actors. He made a good choice there. I'm not a big fan of Sean Astin. He annoys the hell out of me, but this is one of my 2 favorite films with him in it. The other one being Encino Man.
A shout out to who is Sean Astin's father?
I don't know who his dad is, but his mom is a country singer.
His dad is Adam's Family. Gomez, John Astin.
Oh, okay, yeah, John Astin.
It's actually, I think, like there was like some paternity thing, but that's like his last name where he got it from. But it's really, that's really cool. You could say Gomez shares his name. His dad.
But is it really? Because it says Michael Tell was his dad.
But that's what I said. That's the birth, like his actual. But who raised him was John Astin. So it's
okay.
So it's not like I was gonna say. It's not his sperm, but it's the man who raised him. But
that's cool. Patty Duke was his mom.
Yeah, Patty Duke is pretty awesome too.
It was Patty. She was a country singer too, right?
I know she was more of a television actress. She could have sang too.
I was just wrong. No, I was wrong. No, she was a actress. I thought she sang, but I am wrong. She was an actress. So
is he one of the first Nepo bait? No, I'm just kidding.
You know what? I don't know because
you go down to the next person you're going to talk about. There's another.
Yeah. But with Astin, Spielberg walked out of his audition, so I don't know if he was a Nepo baby.
See, there you go. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that information.
Yeah. For the role of Bradley, Brad Walsh was played by Josh Brolin. He's Mikey's older brother, and this is his film debut. Brolin was an unknown 16-year-old when cast. He impressed the filmmakers with a natural mix of athleticism and goofball charm that suited him, the protective big brother and aspiring jock. There aren't widely reported alternate choices for Brad. The role went to a newcomer as intended. Brolin would later recall that he learned a lot on set since it was his first film. Interestingly, he beat out a lot of teen actors in casting, but no specific rejections are documented. This effectively launched his career. One story I remember reading about Josh Brolin was that he was, I believe, broke when No Country for Old Men came in. Really? And he made his money from that to basically keep going, and eventually he became a bigger star. So I'm sure there was some nepotism of his dad helping him, maybe acting classes and stuff, but it looks like dad didn't support him the whole way in terms of financially.
Well, I mean, let's be really honest here. Dad isn't actually, like, when I say Nepo, I just say like you got to get an addition, but James Brolin ain't no. Who's got more money, James Brolin or Barbra Streisand? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like James Brolin probably doesn't even have 1/10 of what Streisand has. So I mean, he could sometimes probably, I would imagine, struggle too. I mean, Amityville Horror was 78. Give me some of his 80s movies.
Yeah, this is the quote for him. But between shooting the films and their release, Brolin said he was broke. between No Country for Old Men and American Gangster. Between those two movies, most of his money had gone to paying off debts he had incurred, and whichever money I did make went back into his family stuff. He had no jobs lined up and had taken just home 30,000 from his No Country. I was at a panic point. He said, but then he received a call from his lawyer. She was like, "Guess what? You got some back end pay coming from American Gangster." So it's American Gangster. He sent him a number which read $60,000. After taxes and fees, he'll be taking home another 25 grand. Another he called amazing. And he was just blessed after that, making other films. So cool story.
Yeah.
I love Caitlin's already giving us, "You glued it upside down, you dork. If God made it like that, you all be pissing in your face." That's the David statue that they flew upside down. So we have Mikey and Brad now cast, and now we're going over to the mouth. Hey, Mickey. Clark Mouth Devereaux. I didn't even know his last name was Devereaux until I did this research. Was played by Corey Feldman. The wisecracking mouth was portrayed by Corey Feldman, who by 1984 was a seasoned actor with roles in Gremlins and Friday the 13th, the final chapter, which he was supposed to be the next Jason, but I guess that fell apart. They liked him for his comedic timing, made him a fan favorite. Notably, a young Corey Haim auditioned for the role of Mouth as well. It was during the Goonies auditions that Haim and Feldman first met, years before they became known as the two Coreys. Haim did not get the role, but Feldman did, but the audition was the start of their friendship. Feldman himself has said this was one of the most fun roles he's ever had. He was so committed to the Goonies that he even turned down another film job he'd been offered in Pee-wee's Big Adventure due to a scheduling conflict. In short, Feldman was the production's first choice for Mouth, and he delivered an improvised motor mouth performance that Donner loved. What do you think about Corey Feldman's performance in this film?
Oh, I think it's really good. I think Corey Feldman is, one of the best 80s young actors that there was.
Yes. The two Coreys, it's kind of amazing that they first met on the Goonies. So the Goonies has even more lore to go along with it.
I always found I liked both Coreys, of course, but there was something just a little bit more to Feldman that I felt like, especially like in something like Stand By Me, where I felt like his character was the one that really let his emotions, especially and, mixed with Phoenix, and Wheaton, it all worked really well together. Not to say.
I think of the two, Corey Feldman was probably the better actor, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't really. I guess Lucas was like a weird film, so I can't really remember.
Well, yeah, and you think of the background story,
yeah. But I didn't think about like Haim that really like where he.
If you ever see
tug at your heartstrings,
License to Drive, I love that movie. Doesn't really pull at your heartstrings. Well, if you're not getting your license and Heather Graham is of your desire, well, it will.
Yeah. For the role of Lawrence Chunk Cohen, Jeff Cohen was cast. For a lovable, clumsy Chunk, the team cast Jeff Cohen, an actor who perfectly embodied the part's humor and heart. I'm going to say this and say Chunk is my least favorite character of this film. I know he's a lot of people's favorites, but he annoys the shit out of me. I don't know why. Cohen has relatively inexperienced, but his audition, including the now famous Truffle Shuffle dance, had everybody laughing their ass off. In fact, director Donner was so amused by Cohen that during one crying scene when Chuck confesses to the Fratellis, you can hear Donner laughing off camera at Jeff's performance. So that's something to listen into if you want to hear an Easter egg. Cohen was dedicated. He actually came to set with a case of chicken pox, afraid that admitting he was sick might get him replaced. If you look closely, you can still see chickenpox marks during his Truffle Shuffle. No other actor is known to have been offered or turned down the role of Chunk. Jeff Cohen was Chunk as far as Donner was concerned. Great choice. And now, fun fact is, Cohen's actually entertainment lawyer and even represents his boy Ken Hugh Kwan, who plays Data. So I think it's kind of cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, what did you think about Chunk? I don't know why Chunk annoyed me. You know what? He wasn't my least favorite character. I would say Mikey is, but he's second. He's second. My favorite character is Data. I don't know why. It's just my favorite character.
You don't always bother. This is gonna be really stupid. What I'm gonna say. You don't always really bothered me is like they called him Chunk, but really, when you look at like a lot of people, he wasn't as big as like they were making him out to be in the movie. To be fair, there are wrestlers who are in 100 times worse shape than Chunk was when he pulled up, even in the Truffle Shuffle. But I get it; he's young, so they're being funny. So like, and that's funny. You see him now, and it doesn't look like there's an inch of fat on Jeff Cohen if you see him as
he's
he doesn't look
extremely skinny.
So that's what I say is like he was just a young kid with like his baby fat or whatever, shuffling it around. But like calling somebody Chunk in my mind is like you're calling him fat, and he wasn't as fat. But I also get why you didn't like him too. He would probably also be in my bottom half of the characters. I didn't relate to that character.
Yeah, I think he has some good scenes, like funny scenes in it, which we'll get to. But I don't know, he just wasn't one of my favorite characters in the film. Even as a kid, I didn't really. He's my mother's favorite. I think my brother likes him a lot, but I didn't like Chunk.
Well, that's why, like, you're as a kid for me, like this movie, Stand By Me, your goal is to find the characters who maybe you could relate to like the movie even more. He just wasn't one of them. But Feldman always was really easy in like Lost Boys and Stand By Me in this. I could be Feldman. That would be the coolest role to be.
Yeah. For the role of Richard Data Wang, Ki Hugh Kwan was cast. He was credited as Jonathan Ki Kwan, the inventive gadget whiz of the group. Kwan was fresh off a big Hollywood debut as Short Round in Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which made him an obvious choice. Spielberg knew Kwan's capabilities in action and comedy. He brought the same exuberance and capabilities and physicality to Data as well. Ziplining into frame, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the film, when he's listening to James Bond as he's going down the zip line and crashes through the door. He didn't have to compete with many people because Spielberg kind of had him pegged for Data. So he kind of had the role from day one. This is probably my favorite character, with Mouth being a close second, just because of Feldman's performance. But what do you think of Data?
I thought he was awesome. And if you're looking for just a little more Data character that he kind of plays, again, just kind of like it in an episode of Tales from the Crypt, where they sneak into the funeral home. He reminds me a lot of the same character in this movie, and he's another one very cool to relate to, somebody who you can understand in the movie. And again, being a huge fan of my favorite indie is Temple of Doom, it's always cool to connect the dots to these, and I'm a sucker for that. If I like you in this movie, I'll love you in that movie. So like that's what this is with him.
Yeah, same. Also, Temple of Doom is my favorite as well. We don't talk about this stuff, people, so I'm not just agreeing with him.
No, yeah. I mean, you've heard us too. I mean, if I just say this word right here, Scarface, it's all over. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
For the role of Andrea Carmichael, the role was played by Carrie Green, the cheerleader who joins the Goonies. She was a 17-year-old newcomer. Green's casting is a bit of a Cinderella story. In 1984, she skipped summer camp to attend movie auditions in New York City, which is where Spielberg's teams discovered her. Spielberg was struck by Green's wholesome charm and brought her in to play Andy. This is Green's first film. She shot Summer Rental shortly after. So the Goonies was a baptism by fire. Again, this is another role that wasn't really offered to anybody else but her. They wanted really real teens to portray this role, which is probably another reason why Spielberg chose her. And she was incredibly nervous about her first on-screen kiss with Josh Brolin that she kept giggling about and worried about, whereas Brolin, also a first timer, was equally shy. In the end, her genuine sweetness came through, and Andy became an endearing character amid the chaos. What do you think about Andy?
Good character. Of course, definitely needed and fits what was looked for.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. This is a character that the next character that we're going to talk about being cast was kind of like she was probably my bottom three, and that's Steph Steinbrenner, who was played by Martha Plimpton. Martha Plimpton played Steph, Andy's sarcastic, tomboyish best friend. She was only 14 during the filming and was actually one of the more experienced young actors in the cast. She had made her film debut at age 11 and had co-starred in The River Rat prior to the Goonies. She auditioned and won the role by projecting a smart, athletic toughness beyond her years. Steph's character needs to hold her own, especially in scenes trading barbs with mouth. It's not widely reported who else was considered for Steph, given Clifton's acting pedigree as a member of the Carradine family. She stood out, so they cast her for it. She and Carrie Green, for instance, spawned as the two older girls in the group. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Steph's character. She kind of annoys me too. But I don't know. She to me, she's very. I know her mouth like go back and forth, but her character in the film kind of it's just bland. To me, it is anyway.
Well, I mean, I won't say she's again my favorite, but again, I think she's a necessary part for all the pieces. And for me, again, a connection for me is like, well, why do you like this her? Let's just say, and I would be like, well, I do really like her a lot in Parenthood when she plays Keanu Reeves' girlfriend a couple years later.
Mm-hmm.
So mentally, if I like her in that, I can then go back and watch this and be like, okay, it's kind of cool to see her as an actress do this and that. But now you're also right too, because when you look at some of all of its parts, is this the cool character? Well, no, she's not the cool character. She's not the girl where you're like, oh man, I like her.
Yeah.
But again, I get what you're saying.
For the role of Lotney, I didn't know his name was Lotney until I did this. Lotney Sloth Fratelli. It was played by John Matsuzek. I hope I pronounced his name correctly.
You got it.
The gentle giant sloth was brought to life by him, an ex-NFL football player turned actor. He was about 6'8", and he had the physicality needed for Sloth's imposing presence. He was not the first celebrity you might think of for the role. Rumors that Andre the Giant was considered, but that's basically fan speculation. In reality, Andre only cameoed in the music video. I didn't even know that. Because the role required long hours and prosthetic makeup that many actors would shy away from, he was open to embrace it. He spent 5 hours in the makeup chair each day to transform into the deformed sloth, complete with an animatronic remote-controlled eye. Despite the discomfort, he kept the set mood light. Jeff Cohen called his background in sports made him a team player with the kids. A fun casting Easter egg is in one scene, Sloth wears an Oakland Raiders t-shirt, a nod to his playing career as a Raider. There was no other background stuff about who was offered for this role. Just like a little, disclaimer here. When it comes to older films like this that are, like in the 80s, sometimes they don't really give me as much information I can get to who was cast or who turned it down when I do research. I look at all websites. If I can't find anything, I can throw it into ChatGPT to see if it can find me anything. And if it doesn't find anything, there's nothing really much I can do from there. So, for the role of Mama Fratelli, we have the great Anne Ramsey, who, of course, was a veteran character actress. She was cast as the film's chief villain, the tyrannical Mama Fratelli. Ramsey was in her mid-50s and had a long resume of small character parts, but The Goonies was her breakthrough into wide recognition. Spielberg and Donner cast her for her ability to be genuinely frightening and darkly funny. It paid off when Ramsey fully inhabited Mama Fratelli on set. She was so convincing that the Kill the Child actors were actually terrified of her. Jeff Cohen admitted he was extremely scared of Mama Fratelli. Donner even encouraged Ramsey to ad-lib slaps and snarls. For example, she would slap Robert Davi, her on-screen son, to provoke authentic reactions. There's no report of anyone else turning down the role. Ramsey was the first team choice and delivered it with gusto. And it's widely praised and compared to her similar turn in Throw Mama from the Train. Great Anne Ramsey. The last two are the Fratelli brothers, Jake and Francis, who were played by Robert Davi and Joe Pantoliano, a.k.a. Joey Pants. They were cast for the two bumbling Fratelli brothers. The filmmakers cast Robert Davi and Joe Patello. Both are rising character actors known for playing heavies, and an interesting thing happened during casting. They auditioned together. The chemistry between Davi and Pautolano really won everybody over. They bantered and bickered like real siblings in the audition room, and they won the roles on the spot, which I thought was pretty crazy. They improvised back and forth, and they convinced Donna that they were the Fratellis. In fact, their characters' sibling rivalry and humor in the film, well, lots of the characters' natural rapport. So that's a lot of ad-libbing between the two, which I thought was awesome. One amusing casting note is both actors stayed in character enough to scare their kids a bit off camera. They made sure the young Goonies didn't see them as too friendly, maintain this on-screen fear. The casting is a great example of Donner trusting unknowns to elevate his material. That's pretty cool that they were cast for author audition of them both basically going into it. Mouth translating the Spanish incorrectly always says yes. Caitlin, it always cracks me up. We'll get to that when we do the breakdown, but yeah. Other minor roles, the film also featured cameo-sized parts like the boy's mother, Irene Walsh, played by Mary Eileen Trainer, and a kindly housekeeper, Rosalita, played by Lupe Anteveros, who most Latino fans will know her as the lady who killed Selena in Selena. She's also in Blood In, Blood Out. She plays a small role in there. These were cast with character actors known to the Amblin family, which is Spielberg's production company. Trainer, for example, was the wife of Robert Zemeckis and a familiar face in the 80s films. However, these were straightforward casting choices with no notable drama or alternatives. So we did not talk about anybody else. Tone, tell us a little bit about the score, my man.
Real quick, before I get into the score, I wanted to say that there were two pretty awesome Joe Pants performances before Goonies. Risky Business, he's really good in, and a music one, before I lead into this, is a movie called Eddie and the Cruisers. Tom Berenger's in there. Really good piece of a movie, but then we got him here, and now we're here to the soundtrack. I honestly, before really doing some research on this, just wasn't really aware of the what's the word I'm looking for, the bangers that were on this soundtrack. There's actually some good bands and artists on the actual soundtrack. You have, which honestly, it's crazy. It was released on my birthday in 1985. I was 3 years old when this came out, May 20th, 1985. We have definitely The Goonies Are Good Enough. I laughed because personally, until I looked this up, I totally forgot about this song, and Cyndi Lauper singing it. Really kind of very, very cool. 8 Arms to Hold You by the Goon Squad was track 2. Love Is Alive by Philip Bailey. You may say to yourself, who is Philip Bailey? Philip Bailey is one of the singers of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Amazing artist. Band Bangles, Walk Like an Egyptian. They're on the soundtrack. But you get a soundtrack too. This is the greatest part for me. You go REO Speedwagon, Luther Vandross, Cyndi Lauper. What a crazy 3 in a row. If you are paying attention to just how nuts there is with REO Speedwagon doing Whenever You're Going. Definitely an interesting all-around soundtrack. Very, very cool. Before we get a little more into that, the score composer, Dave Grusin, he is the composer of the actual film. I love whimsical type stuff in this. I mean, we talked earlier about Temple of Doom. I love the music that needs to fit a movie like this. You're not going to make it work where you got like Slayer playing around in the background. You got like whimsical. It makes you feel like swashbucklers. What's crazy though is that just how you have the one soundtrack that has, of course, Cyndi Lauper, and then you got the music score. Very, very interesting. Also was interesting and amazing was the music video that accompanies The Goonies Are Good Enough. You, me, a lot of people, we are fans of wrestling. Being able to watch this music video and see the amazing Captain Lou Albano, amazing Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, the fabulous Moolah, Rowdy Piper, really awesome. Lauper, makes a meta cameo, which is really interesting. Seeing her character, the character sing her song good enough on a television, just very, very cool, very, very interesting. And what's really crazy is just how successful the soundtrack was and how it's kind of slipped under the radar for so long. Because honestly, when you think of 80s soundtracks, you do not really talk and sit down and talk about the Goonies soundtrack. But to be fair, there's some really, really good stuff on this. A lot of good stuff. 25 years, the score was not available on album. So to be able to, you got a copy now, to be able to think that for such a long time it wasn't available. That's just like a little side note. Ferris Bueller never had an official soundtrack, but that movie's got a lot of banger songs on it. This one, awesome soundtrack.
Voodoo economics.
Voodoo.
I know that from reading this also, I think the music video wasn't shot until after the movie was released, which is why it's just her in a white background in that TV, which I thought was kind of funny.
Donner should have got her on set. She could have played a character. She could play like the sister.
She sure could have.
That could have been.
Cyndi Lauper, man, she's the best.
You know what's crazy? You bring her up, and now I could say Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2025 induction.
She deserves it. She was one of the first big women pop stars.
I will, side note, say that there were, you made a great case to me about, I don't want to say their name wrong, M-A-N-A.
Mana?
They really should have been, inducted, and hopefully next year they do. But the thing about the Hall is when you really, really break it down, Iron Maiden isn't in the Hall of Fame, and they fucking should be. There's a lot of bands that aren't in there that really should be. I really find it hard to believe that, like, you know, I love the White Stripes, but maybe they could wait a couple years, and some bands are a little older that put some time and could come in. But different time period. Great soundtrack. Cyndi Lauper rules.
Yeah, I'm also happy that Soundgarden made it in, even though they weren't as long, but Chris Cornell deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
He probably would have liked it more if he was, you know.
He was there, yeah.
Sad. Hopefully they play, though. I always like when whatever any of these bands do, they're able to get it together and get on stage and maybe do something.
For sure, man. For sure. But that is our development of the Goonies. Hopefully we threw some goodies in there that you did not know, my man. You ready to do these breakdowns of this movie?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into this.
See the arc? He starts down here. He ends up here. Where's my arc, Paulie?
So the film opens with a jailbreak. You see Jake Fratelli basically acting like he has committed, suicide, hanging from a pipe. The guard goes and looks at a note that's on his chest and then says, "You schmuck. You really think I killed myself?" And he basically, I don't know if he headbutts him or what, but the guard flies back. He jumps out of the cell and then apparently runs through the front when there should be a bunch of cops watching him run through, but I guess there weren't. We see his brother Francis pouring gasoline around, and then when Jake jumps into the car, they're getting shot at. An RV Jeep. Francis shoots the gasoline to basically make a circle of fire tone, and he does the famous laugh, which I loved. The jail scenes were filmed at location at the old Clatsop County Jail in Austria, Oregon, a real decommissioned jail now turned into the Oregon Film Museum. In fact, fans can visit the very cells using the opening jailbreak scene. Mama Fratelli had undergone surgery for throat cancer prior to the filming. The operation removed parts of her tongue and jaw, causing the slurred, gravelly voice that became a memorable aspect of the character. So unfortunately, that caused her to have her voice change, but it's what we fell in love with. As they're running away from the cops, they're being chased. This is when we see the introduction of the characters. They drive by Mouth, who's working with his dad as a plumber, He's watching TV. His dad's telling him turn it off, and when he turns it off, you still hear the sirens from the cars being chased because they're chasing the Fratellis, and he starts hitting the box, and the water comes up in his face. You see Data trying to use his pinchers of pearl on the garbage can, but it pulls him to the garbage can, and he basically becomes upside down in the garbage can while the car drives past cars drive past him. We see Steph. I don't know why she's looking for a crab, bobbing for crabs. I don't know what that scene was supposed to represent, but okay. And then we see Chunk, saying, "Oh yeah, a police chase." And he's pushes up against the glass so hard that the pizza smears and his shake explodes all over him, and he goes, "Ah, shit!" And eventually, they go into a race on the beach, which was crazy, where the mom wins. And then we also see them pass by Rosalita, the cops and her. She's in the middle of them, and she just screams. It cuts to the kids at home, and basically, Mikey and Brad are at home. They're kind of talking. You can tell there's something going on. We find out that Mikey's parents are losing their house, as well as other people in the area are losing their house due to foreclosure, and they are basically moping around, talking about it, and then we see the introduction of Chunk come, and Mouth, who had just arrived at the house as well, tells him it's Chunk outside, to which they make Chunk do the truffle shuffle tone. And here it is.
Your life! First you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on! Do it! Come on! Do it! Cut it out, Mouth.
And that part always was funny to me with the truffle shuffle. I always thought it was kind of weird that the dad let them set up that little contraction that like let the person in the house. So they had to always go and reset it, which is like, okay. There were some weird people that lived in that house. For the most of the scenes shot around Astoria, Oregon, were actual local streets and landmarks. The final stretch of the getaway where the Fratellis evaded police was shot at Cannon Beach, with the famous Haystack Rock visible. The production staged a fake off-road race there, so the Fratellis could vanish into the crowd of dune buggy racers. For the truffle shuffle, we already mentioned that Jeff Cohen had been secretly suffering from chickenpox, and you could see that there might be some chickenpox on his belly there while he does the truffle shuffle. And the elaborate gate opening mechanism I just mentioned is a nod to cartoonist Rube Goldberg. In fact, fans have dubbed it Rube G Machine. It's truly worked as shown, taking several tries to film correctly. The over-engineering device sets the playful tone, showing the Goonies world is one where even opening gate can be an adventure. I just think it's a hassle to just keep setting that up, but it was cool for the movie. As they're in the house, Chunk and all that. It always cracks me up when Chunk tries to come into the house and Mouth closes the door in front of him. He's like, "You turd!" And then he's like, "Oh, guys, you won't believe what I just saw." And this is like the time Michael Jackson's sister, like the time Michael Jackson came to your house to use the bathroom. And he's like, "No, Michael Jackson did not come to my house to use the bathroom, but his sister did." It's just stupid stuff like, as kids that we would tell these fibs tone to each other. And we see the introduction of Data, who's playing James Bond music using a zip line the zip line is somehow attached to these people's house front door. He goes through it and breaks through the front door, breaking the screen door. They fall over, they knock over Mikey's mom's favorite statue, which is a David statue, and his penis breaks off. They then try to glue it, and that's where Brad says one of his famous lines of, if God made you like this, we all be pissing in our faces, which always cracks me up. I couldn't find a good enough clip to play that, but I really wanted to. They then turn attention to Chunks babbling about the police chase again. He's talking about gunshots, and they're making fun of him again, which always cracks me up. Just to show a bunch of real kid stuff. The broken statue gag pushed the limits of the PG film in 1985 with its risque humor. Director Richard Donner left it in to get laughs from adults while it sailed over kids' heads. Corey Feldman, who played Mouth, later said he was amazed they got away with a joke in a family movie, which I thought was pretty funny too. So have that little thing in there. When this is going on, they all bring in Irene, Mrs. Walsh. She returns home with an older Hispanic woman named Rosalita, who she's hiring to help pack up the house. And I always thought it was hilarious how she says, "I would like the house to look really nice before they destroy it." So before they tear it down, she wanted the house to look nice. Mouth deliberately mistranslates almost every line that the mom tells him to. He tells her that there's cocaine in the top drawer, and you have to always separate the drugs. You have to be careful of where Mr. Walsh puts his sex toys. If he doesn't listen, they're gonna put her in a closet for 2 weeks with no water or food. It's so hilarious. She has the lady who plays her, Lupe Oliveros, actually speaks perfect English, which I thought was funny. She helped the writers craft Mouth's outrageous Spanish lines. And Feldman didn't speak Spanish. So she helped them pronounce it correctly. I always thought it was odd that he wanted it clean before it turned down. Like, what? Yeah, that's what I was just saying, Caitlin. Sin agua y comida. Yeah, with no food or water is what he tells her. I always thought that part was funny, and she's like, Dios mío. It's a funny scene. So what do you think about that whole Spanish shenanigans there?
Oh, a great scene. Comic, hilarious, as you said, the way Feldman said all that other stuff. It's good.
Yeah, just I that's what really made me fall in love with the film too, is the fact that he's like, I speak perfect English, perfect Spanish, Mrs. Walsh, and then he just proceeds to be an asshole. In a later interview, Corey Feldman said the drug drawer translation scene was one of his favorites. The studio worried it might be too much, but Steven Spielberg reportedly loved the subversive humor in it. It's an example of the Goonies being again a balanced, kid-friendly film with grown-up jokes. I don't think they could put that in a new film today. It's too much adult. So while the kids are down there, the mom is talking to Rosalina. She's basically gonna leave, and we find out Mikey's dad, Mikey and Brad's dad, actually works for a museum of some sorts. So they head upstairs in the attic to see stuff up there. Maybe there's something up there that could help save their houses from being torn down. And they find, yes, adios, señorita. That's when she leaves. Mike Mouth tells her that. They go upstairs to find if there's anything up there, and they find this crazy map of crazy map of a treasure, some ciphers of maps text of One-Eyed Willie. And Mikey tells a story about One-Eyed Willie going against our Armada, Spanish Armada, and like how he had all this treasure and how he set booby traps. According to lore, Willie and his crew set booby traps to guard the treasure. And both Data and Chunk are skeptical, but Mikey kind of like sells it to the point where he gets them to believe. As they dig through the piles of old stuff, Chunk uncovers a small old gold coin, and it has some articles about a missing treasure hunter named Chester Copperpot.
Hey, you guys, look at this. Hey, you guys ever heard of this guy? Look, Chester Copperpot. Look, it says, Chester Copperpot, missing while in pursuit of local legend. Reclusive scavenger claims I have the key to One-Eyed Willie. Wow, you guys realize what we could do?
Nobody ever found nothing, you guys. I mean, why do you think this map would be up here in this attic when it could be in some safety deposit box somewhere, right?
So that one thing of finding Chester Copperpot's little article there and the little key kind of booster curiosity that maybe something could be going on, Tone, to the point that they have a little plan they're gonna carry out in the next scene. But the main prop used in the film was painstakingly hand drawn and aged using coffee and even real blood.
Ooh.
He thought the production designer J. Michael Riva thought the initial map looked too new, so in his hotel room, he stained it with coffee and his own blood, which is kind of fucking weird, to give it a more weathered, pirate authentic look. Talk about dedication there. Actor Sean Astin was allowed to keep the treasure map as a souvenir after filming wrap. However, years later, his mom, actress Patty Duke, found the old parchment and among his things, not recognizing its significance, and threw it out, thinking it was just a scrap old piece of paper.
Wow.
He has laminated that original one of the piece kind of movie history, and it was accidentally lost to the garbage. Great job, Patty Duke. What the hell? I wonder how many other people's famous stuff was just thrown out when their mom didn't realize it.
Tossed out with the trash.
Yeah, so now the kids are talking, and they're like, we got to go try to see where this treasure map leads to. We have a key of some sort. We know about Chester Copperpot. So they decided to try to leave, but Mike's mom, before leaving to the grocery store where Rosalita told him that he can't go out, and there's kind of jokes made that she kind of over babies Mikey a little bit. And Brad, being the older brother, has to take care of him because he tells her, why don't you just put him in a plastic bubble? And she's like, I don't want to hear any of that talk. If something happens to him, you're in deep shit. And so basically the kids, they jump on Brad while he's working out with I don't even know what that thing's called. It's on that stretchy thingy. You know what it's called?
It's like, I don't know the exact name of it, but it's like the old school, like, bicep builder. Like, you just have like the things, and it's hilarious you bring that up because until watching this movie, I'd forgot all about those. They used to be big in the 80s.
Yeah, they say his expanding chest exercise cord, I guess. I did a description of this. Chunk sits on him, which I thought was pretty funny. So Chunk is sitting on him. They grab that cord that he's stretching, and they basically tie him around a chair. Then as they leave, they take off the air of the little caps of his tires on his bike, which I don't know if that would actually make the air release, because I thought you had to push on it, to get the air release. But apparently that deflates. And while they're running away, Mikey says, don't do that. He spent the whole summer mowing lawns to get that bike. So we see that the mom comes home as the kids make their way to the treasure, and Brad's forced to go look for them. He finds his bike destroyed with the tires flat, and he ends up stealing a little girl's bike, which I thought was like, yeah, let me just steal this little girl's bike, which would probably take more effort to ride than anything. The boys basically go around the neighborhood. They're going down the coastline of Astoria. Following the map's clues, Mikey guides them along back roads and muddy trails. Eventually, they reach a scenic lookout over an ocean at Cauldron Point. During this time, too, they see, 3 stones. He pulls up the key, and he finds out that that's where the 3 stones lead in the key that match the key, so they're at the right spot. Brad is trying to find them, and he sees Andy with her boyfriend and Steph in the back seat, and apparently her boyfriend is a pervert trying to look up her skirt, and Steph is just laughing in the background, which I'm like, aren't you her friend? Like, so that's another reason why I don't understand that character. But he eventually sees Brad on a little bike and grabs him by handle and basically tries to commit attempted murder by driving with him and then letting him go off a cliff, which he thought was hilarious. But I mean, he just basically tried to kill somebody. What'd you think about that part, Tone?
When you say it like that, it's a little sketchy.
Yeah, extremely. So the boys decide to go inside the building. First, they look around and they go inside the building to see what's in there, because they're like, isn't there a summer place and it's fall? It should be open, is what Chunk says. They go inside and they meet the Fratellis, which happen to be in there. And we see the first interaction with Mama Fratelli, and she asks the boys, what do they want?
What do you want?
Lots of water.
4 waters. Is that all?
No. I want the Villa Scalapini. I want a fettuccine Alfredo. A bottle of fettuccine in 1981.
The only thing we serve is tongue. You boys like tongue?
That scene always cracks me up. As Mouth being an asshole is asking for all these things from Italian restaurants, and the mom and the son are talking back and forth. Jake in Italian. And that's where Mouth decides to be an asshole. Do that. She puts 4 waters on their table, and they're like rusted water. He's like, "Can I get? Is there something wrong with it?" And she's like, "No, that's what you get." And Mikey then asks to go to the bathroom, and she said, "Yeah." They're asking if it's water, and she goes, "It's wet, isn't it?" Great job, great pull there, Caitlin. That's always correct. It's like yellow ass water. Mikey asks to go to the bathroom, and while she tells him to stay to the left, or she tells him to stay to the left. He goes down there and hears somebody screaming down there. He looks and he sees somebody chained watching TV. Well, first he sees Jake throwing food at this person. And then he puts the food down and he's watching TV and he can't reach it. So Mikey pushes the tray to him. And the person looks at Mikey and scares the shit out of him, picks up the tray like it's the best thing in the world and screams. Mikey runs right into Brad, who pushes them out and tells him, who says they're going home. The Fratellis push them out to where the mom, after she closes the door, says, "Kids suck," which always cracked me up. So they're outside. Apparently, Andy and Steph have joined. Andy says she elbowed her boyfriend in the nose. He kept looking up her blouse or her skirt or something like that. They said they got to go home, but then Mikey gives this speech about there's going to be no homes. Let's see if we can find something. And eventually convincing them to go back in. He kind of tries to pull at the heartstrings there. So they see the Fratellis leaving. Chunk tells them about the bullet holes out there, that there's bullet holes the size of, what does he say? Like cannonballs, or they're huge. Of course, the kids don't believe him. I love when Chunk, they're trying to go back inside while they see the Fratellis leave. It looks like a body. He's like, come on, Mikey. It's getting dark. Dinner's almost is ready. Let's just go home, because he wants to eat like a fat ass. They regroup and basically they're looking at the treasure map again. They see the Fratellis leave. They decide to go inside and explore the place through the map. The lighthouse exterior was fake, which I thought was kind of cool. The production built the ramshackle restaurant as a temporary set at Ecola Point, Oregon, just for the film. After filming, it was torn down as it wasn't a real business. Today, if you visit Ecola State Park, you can stand where the Fratellis hideout once stood, but you'll only see coastline and trees, which I thought was really, really cool. As the boys go in, they find, nothing. There's concrete in the basement. They have to go to the basement, which is what the map is saying. And the map is actually in Spanish, which Mouth is translating, which I always thought was kind of funny. But they go downstairs and, Mikey tries to hit the floor with a hot poker, and he just basically shakes, and Brad's like, "What the hell are you doing? We're getting out of here." And then Data finds the machine that prints $50 bills. It's like, $50 bill, $50 bill. And they find out that it was basically, I guess, from what we can piece together, Tone, it was kind of a like a counterfeiting job going on there of some sort, that the feds were involved in, and they're printing fake $50 bills that were, basically got them arrested or shot in the general, because we find out that somebody was killed while they're looking more. And Chunk is like, "Oh, let's leave." Before he leaves, he goes, "I smell ice cream."
And they got chocolate eruption. And they got apple. And they got grape. They got gas grape and super duper chocolate eruption and what?
Yeah, it's a stiff. Seconds later, they're freaking out about that. Prior to this, Chunk had dropped he saw the water down there. He tried to drink the water jug and there were no cups. He turned it over and broke the bottle on there, which caused water to go down the back of the furnace or the fireplace, which is actually an underground area that they later find. While Chunk is screaming about this, they hear the Fratellis come back and they realize they can actually go into the back by the furnace and go down. Now, this is a funny part because Chunk gets locked in with the stiff to hide while the others go down into the hiding spot. You have time to go down there while they're under the floorboards. And the Fratellis come in. The mom realizes it's wet and she tells them to go check on the brother. And this is one of my favorite parts of the film, Tone, is right here.
Let me show you this piece over here.
I don't want to touch that. I worked 2 hours on that.
You worked what?
Shut up! Somebody's been here. The cooler's broken. Probably a tremor. Go check your brother.
Well, it could have been a tremor, man.
I'll show you a tremor.
I'm gonna go check the brother.
You better not have broken those chains again. I'm not going back to the zoo for another session.
That part cracks me up, and you can see Joey Pants like holding his laughter in when she smacks the shit out of him. He's like, "I'm gonna go check my brother, ma." I always crack me up. Did that part crack you up as much as it does me, Tone?
Oh yeah, just the interaction between all of them. I mean, going back to when you said just how them two were able to get the role together, and then you add in, Ann Ramsey, and you got yourself a real great trio of hilarity.
Yeah, it always cracks me up. The kids, the Fratellis leave again to go take another body out, after they check the chains of his brother, was who they mentioned. Chunk tries to go downstairs into the floorboards with the other kids, but they tell him no, go find the police. And Chunk is running. The next scene is Chunk running into the woods. He's like, I like the dark. I like the dark. But as he runs through bushes, he says, I hate nature. I hate nature. And then he runs in front of a car and says, stop. I'm just a kid. And he goes, I don't know if you know this, but the Fratellis. And he finds out that Robert Davi, aka Jake Fratelli, is the person driving the car. And he starts singing in Italian opera. And Francis grabs Chunk and puts him into the car. During this time, the kids are on the ground. They find Chester Copperpot's body, which has an old candle. They have a Lou Gehrig baseball card, which I'm pretty sure was worth money that they could have sold for some money. They find out he died. He has dynamite and candles, which they think he has all candles, which is a major thing going forward. But the Fratellis eventually grab Chunk and they say, hey kid, spill your guts, we want to hear everything about you.
And they got chocolate.
Hey kid, I want you to spill your guts. Tell us everything. Everything.
Everything. Okay, I'll talk. In 3rd grade, I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and I glued it on my face when I played Moses in my Hebrew school play. In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the time my mom sent me to a summer camp for fat kids. And then once during lunch, I got nuts and I pigged out and they kicked me out.
And my favorite part's when after he says that, Jake says, I'm starting to like this kid, Ma. He's a walking disaster. To which the mama says, I'll hit blend if you don't tell me where your friends are, which is basically she's going to blend his hand in a blender. And that's when he starts telling her about the map and One Eye Willie, which she seems intrigued, but she doesn't really believe him. Luckily for him at this time, as they're trying to blend his hand, the kids down in the tunnels actually open up a spot with a bunch of bats fly out, and they break through the opening in the fireplace, causing the Fratellis to be suspicious and actually believe Chunk. And Chunk again throws it in their faces. He sees the ice cream that Francis Fratelli was eating and begins to gloat.
I told you so. See you guys? You never believed me. I said that they were gonna be buried.
Those little parts are pretty funny. But the Fratellis decide to follow the kids, and they lock up Chunk with Sloth, who is the brother. Sloth's watching TV, and Chunk he's watching a pirate who says, "Hey, you guys," and like cuts down the pirate flag as he goes down to the ship. Chunk's side-splitting confession scene wasn't just great comedy; it was inspired by real life. The infamous fake vomit prank he describes was actually something executive producer Steven Spielberg did himself as a kid. Jeff Cohen's delivery was so believable that Spielberg was in tears with laughter watching it. Decades later, fans still quote lines like, "And then I made a nose like this." To get Jeff Cohen to cry hysterically during the blender interrogation, director Richard Donner encouraged him to think of something sad. Cohen, being a young kid, opted to let loose and overact for comedic thought. He thought about his mom passing away when he was crying, which, it's a pretty powerful moment there to think about. But as Chunk is locked up with Sloth, him and Sloth are getting to know each other. He tries to toss a candy bar at Sloth that hits him in the head, which pisses off Sloth to no end. He starts screaming, and Chunk starts jumping up and down in his chair, which Sloth starts laughing. But when Sloth tries to reach the candy bar, he eventually just breaks the chains that they got from the zoo and feeds to Chunk and basically frees him. We see the kids going forward again, and as they pass through the underground, we see them pulling on these pipes and clanging on pipes to see where it goes, and they see water coming out everywhere, and there's a part where a kid goes to take a shit. I think it's Andy's boyfriend, right? He goes to take a shit, and like the water sprays up his ass. He goes, "Daddy!" Stuff like that. So they basically cause a lot of ruckus. Chunk and Sloth are then shown in the ice cream tray at the ice cream freezer, which is always one of my favorite parts when Sloth goes.
Hey kid.
Oh, I don't have it. Where he goes Rocky Road. I thought I had it on here by now. He goes Rocky Road, and Chunk's talking to a cop, and basically, if you listen to what he's telling that cop, he's talking about other films, because he's telling them, well, one of the things he says, like, "Oh yes, Lawrence, like the time you said all the mafia runs all the Godfather pizza restaurants, or that time you told me about those little creatures that multiply when you spill water on them," which is obviously gremlins. But he gets hung up on because Sloth messes up the phone, and eventually they go down into the tunnel. He follows Sloth into the tunnel where they find those pipes that they were working on, and he pushes one up, and basically, I don't know if he kills somebody or what, but some lady screams, and he goes, "Uh-oh." Which I always thought was hilarious. As they keep going down into the underground caves, the kids run into traps. One of them is a carved out rock tunnel that Data almost dies in, but he gets saved by the pinchers of peril, which worked for him that time. And then he tells them that they can come down there, which they throw a rope down into that area. There's spikes down, and they continue to walk down there. So basically, they're leading up spots for other people to follow them. The skeleton for Chester Copperpot the kids found was invented for the film, but the name has since been referenced in other media as homage, including songs and video games. The photo of Copperpot in the newspaper was uncredited. For years, fans speculated it was a famous actor. Even the film's construction coordinator used as the model. The sequence where the kids yank the underground plumbing was played for slapstick, but it carries a bit of symbolism. The Goonies, the kids from the wrong side of town, literally upend the comfort of snobby country club folks like Troy. Above, in the novelization, the scene is highlighted to show the class difference, regardless of audiences mainly remember it for a hilarious image of Troy being rocketed off the toilet with water going up his ass tone. What do you think of that whole like sequence?
Again, I love your descriptions of it because it just puts you back there the first time you watch it. So that's great.
Yeah, it always cracked me up. We'd go on to see, the kids as they keep going down, and they go into this area of all this like coins and whatnot, which is the wishing well. It's illuminated by a shaft of light. They realize they're in the bottom of an old wishing well. The floor is covered with coins that have been tossed down by the townsfolk for making wishes. The kids are like, "Oh man, it's money!" Mouth's eyes light up. He weighs in, starts pocketing coins, thinking of the money. The troubles are over. But Steph tells him, those are other people's wishes down here. Mikey softly adds that taking them will be stealing somebody's dreams. Again, kid stuff, being innocent. Mouth in a rare series moment holds up one particular coin, says, "You seen this one? This was my wish, my dream, and didn't come true. So I'm taking it back, and I'm taking them all back." Basically saying that, he wishes to save his own house, and his wish is more important to him. During this time too, Andy's like, "I want to leave." Troy's talking to his two friends, and he says he throws a coin down the well. And his friends ask what you wish for, and he says to make it with Andy. So I'm guessing he wants to try to have relations with Andy. To which the coin comes back up at him, which I thought was hilarious. And it's Andy down there. And he's like, "What are you doing down there?" And she's like, "No, I'll explain to you later. Just help me come up here." And he lowers the, well bucket down there for her to climb on. She's wearing Troy's jacket, and she's convinced by Mikey when he says the passionate speech, and then he says the lines, "Goonies never die." He reminds them that the treasure hunt is their time, a chance to prove themselves and fight for what matters. If they give up now and let themselves be hauled up, then it's over. The rich people above have their time win, and the Goonies will lose everything. One by one, the group chooses to stay. Andy, moved by Mikey's words and fed up with Troy's attitude, decides to trust her friends. And instead of climbing out, she places her jacket with Troy's varsity lettersman sweater into the bucket. Above, Troy reels up the bucket, likely to find his own sweater and no Andy. He gets really upset and says this line, "Andy! You Goonie!" What'd you think about that whole little "you Goonie"?
I like that you put that clip on it. That's good. I think it's again as I like this right here. The most cringe line. definitely cringe.
Yeah, the way he does it, he sells it. I mean, I gotta give it to him. He sold it, man.
Can you play it one more time?
Yeah.
Andy! You Goonie! Just the echo at the end.
But even as a kid, I always thought, how did he not know he wasn't pulling her up? I mean, he would have felt the weight, right? Even though his friends were helping him pull, they still would have felt the weight of her.
Yeah.
So I that's part, but whatever. They keep going forward. Eventually, one of the cool parts they go to, Tone, is they come up with a pipe organ of bones where they have to play it to it's with fingers, and they serve as keys, and it bells of stretched skin, form the instrument's body. It's an equal parts fascinating and terrifying. At the far end of the chamber looms a large stone door with no obvious handles, only a keyhole shape like the copper bones artifact Data took from Copperpot. Inscribed above the organ is another clue in Spanish. Mouth translates it to say, "Ye intrutas beware." Play the notes right, something, ye will be rewarded. But if you make a mistake, then basically they're going to die. Andy, who says she took piano lessons years ago, volunteers while trembling. She's the only one who even might play an organ. Mikey hands her the map where the musical notes are on the back of it and shows her the clues, and she's scared. At this time, the Fratellis are coming. And this is where Data, I think, he tries to grab Data, and Data punches him with the boxing glove in his coat, and then he puts slick shoes out, so oil's on there. They fall on their nuts, and they get. That's one of my favorite parts too. I wish I would have got the clip for it, but I couldn't find it. When they're on the log tone, and the water just comes and pushes them away, and she's like, "Oh, go help your brother." And he falls, and Jake falls and on his nuts basically, and the tide comes through and basically like forces them away. They're like, "Oh!" They just fall into the water. While Andy is trying to play these notes, at first nothing happens when she presses the buttons, and then a section of the floor abruptly drops away, revealing a black abyss beneath. She played the wrong note. The kids scramble back from the edge as they realize the trap. Every wrong note causes parts of the floor to go away. She's like, "Oh God, I only got to the third grade of piano lessons." Andy wails, but she steers herself and tries again, with Steph coaching her and Brad encouraging her. One correct chord, the door slowly opens, progressing. Again, she plays another one as outside Data is fighting the Fratellis. They're trying to keep them away. Eventually, she plays all the right notes. The door opens. They run away just in time before the Fratellis almost basically shoot them, which I thought was cool. The bone organ, which set piece, is one of the film's most striking visuals. The production design team actually crafted the organ out of fiberglass and molds to resemble bones. None of it was real human remains, of course, hopefully. I guess I never watched Poltergeist 2. The sound it plays was added in post-production, blending eerie organ tones with clacking sounds. In the DVD commentary, the actors recalled the bone organ scene was practically challenging to shoot. Water was pouring in, the set was complex, and timing the collapsing floor sections required a lot of coordination. Carrie Green, who played Andy, really had to pretend to play the notes, and she joked that despite not actually playing piano, her fake keystrokes in the film somehow convinced many fans that she knew the tune by heart.
Yeah.
While they're running away, the kids go through this tunnel, and as they step forward, they suddenly give way to slick tunnel chutes, which are like little slides. Okay. Low key missed the Goonies slot machine at the casino. The bonus was picking the skeleton piano. Oh, nice.
That's
yeah,
cool.
look into that. So they go down these slides and chutes, and they fall into the water, which they eventually see the pirate ship. Now, if you watched the film, on DVD and whatnot, you would just see them go into the pirate ship from the these like water slides and the chutes. But Tone, there is a deleted scene of them fighting an octopus, and if you listen to them at the end of the film when they're telling the police what happened, or the newscast and the news people what happened, they tell them about an octopus they fought, which everybody also automatically thought they were lying. But we're going to show you that part of the octo attack. So unfortunately, if you're listening to us on the audio version of this, check us out on the visual version of this at the YouTube of Sadistic Penguin Studios for the clip. But I'm gonna play a quick 30-second clip of it with a little music in the background, as it didn't play any sound. But check this out, Tom. Isn't it kind of funny that the Walkman saved them, that somehow was working in the water?
Yes, very funny.
Checking in on the way to dinner, Yumper and Tony.
You Goonies!
Andy! You Goonies!
So what'd you think of that whole octopus scene?
Interesting. It gives me some Ed Wood vibes, but also I think if they kind of cleaned it up, it would have actually worked pretty well in the movie.
Yeah. So you can actually see that scene if you have the DVD. It's on the lead scenes, which I thought was pretty cool. But I thought I show it. Caitlin said she's standing in for Sam's absent ass. Queen ass is here. King ass is on the way to dinner. So during this, they go and explore, and they're looking at the pirate ship. They're looking at how cool it looks. They're trying to see, what's here. They're not finding any treasure, and it's showing the map is just showing that they're going down to a cannon area, which pisses Mop off. He's like, "Where's the gold?" And if I were him, I would have felt the same way, that the pirate ship basically didn't lead to anything at the time. The cool thing is the pirate ship was one of the movie's grandest moments. The production team built a full-size 105-foot pirate ship for filming, based on the ship from Earl Flynn's The Seahawk for inspiration. Director Richard Donner wanted the kids' reactions to be authentic, so he kept the completed ship hidden from the young actors until cameras rolled. The first time they saw it, their astonishment was real. In fact, it was too real. Several of them shouted "Holy shit" out loud, ruining the take. They had to reshoot without swearing, but those wide-eyed expressions in the film are genuine. After filming, the beautiful ship was offered to anyone who could take it. It was even used for Cyndi Lauper's music video tie-in. When no one claimed it, sadly, the Inferno was dismantled and scrapped. All the effort and craftsmanship sailed off into movie history. So that kind of sucks, Tom.
It does.
But while they're arguing down in the cannonball chamber, they see somebody hits a contraption which eventually bust out the top, I guess, of the ceiling of the chamber, revealing an opening to which Mikey climbs up in. He opens it and sees a bunch of pirates sitting around a bunch of gold. He climbs up there, sees One-Eye Willie, and tells him that he's the first Goonie, thanking him. And he looks at his eye, which I always thought was kind of crazy. Like, he wanted to see his eye, and then he got scared and put it back. Tell him, like, to see he had no eye, which, his name is One-Eyed Willie.
One-Eyed Willie. What would
what do he look like? As he's up there, the other goodies kind of come in, and they start filling their pockets, hats with whatever they can grab of golds and gems. Data marvels at the shiny emeralds. Steph and Mouth scoop up coins. Annie picks out a gold necklace in wonder. Brad finds a long string of pearls, drapes it around Mikey, calling him Mikey the Rich. Basically, they're going ape shit over all this stuff. They try to grab some stuff by Willie, which Mikey tells them, no, that's Willie's. He pours out his marbles and puts gems into his little marble pouch. He also remembered the final clue. He who takes the plate of Willie will incur the wrath or something anonymous, so he warns them not to take it. That's for Willie. Just as they think of it's over, the Fratellis come up with their guns. They make them spit out, basically take away all their gems. Mouth has so much crap in his mouth, like pearls and diamonds, to where Mama Fratelli says, "Oh my god." She basically makes them walk the plank. They get jumped off. But before this happens, they're actually saved by and that's where Chunk and Sloth come down, as reenacting the scene from the film where he cuts down the pirate flag as he goes down onto the ship. He basically saves them. The kids run away. Chunk fights his brothers, where they try to play jump rope and then try to tie him up, to which is he knocks them out. My brother still talks about this all the time when he goes, remember that time you wanted to fix your teeth, but Francis spent the money on his hairpiece, on his toupee? He's like, I don't wear a hairpiece. And they start fighting, to which Chunk just goes away. The mom tries to baby him, trying to walk him, doing baby talk to him, but Chunk eventually, realizes she dropped him as a kid when she sings him Rockabye Baby. And when she says fall, he starts freaking out. He drops her into the water. The kids try to light a candle by the opening of a area to see where to get out, but eventually it is a dynamite stick that blows up. Everything starts falling down around them. Sloth heroically comes and lifts up a boulder so they can get through, and tells Chunk to go, who doesn't want him to go. But the kids pull Chunk out as they go to the beach line. Sloth goes back to his family, and the kids are basically running out the street, the beach, where they find their family members and police there that were looking for them. Data sees his family, his mom, dad. Chunk sees his family, and they bring a pizza for Chunk, which I thought was hilarious. Mikey sees his family, and he's telling his parents that he's sorry, he could have saved it, but he had to let it go. But just then, Sloth comes up with the Fratellis, and that's when the kids go to protect Sloth because the cops are going to shoot him. The cops are just going to shoot Sloth. And I love how Chunk holds up a pizza box like it's going to do something, but they protect Sloth from getting shot. Yeah, she says, "I only dropped you once." It's what she tells him, or twice. But as they tell a story about their adventures to everyone, Troy and his dad are there and tell Walsh to sign the papers to basically their house, to which he's going to sign because he only had till morning. It's morning right now to sign over to the house. But as Rosalita is looking through their belongings, she finds Mikey's little marble bag, and there's gems in there, Tone. And she screams out in Spanish, "Don't sign," to where the kids prevent him from signing. And the dad has a pretty cool moment when he says,
"There'll be no more signing today or ever again."
Yeah, and then Chunk tells Sloth, like Caitlin says, he's gonna live with them without asking his parents. He's like, "I'm gonna take care of you, Sloth." I'm like, why would his parents want to take this big ass dude into their house?
Well, I was just going to ask you, can you imagine if Ben asked you when he's that age, "Hey, Dad, Sloth is going to come live with us. Is that okay?"
Hell no.
You meet him? Well, you just meet him and you're like, well, can I get to know him first or anything?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Which I don't know, man. But the jewels that saved the day were the only riches the Fratellis didn't confiscate. The filmmakers worked with actual jewelers to estimate their value. Supposedly, the mix of emeralds, rubies, and diamonds would have been worth north of enough of millions of dollars to cover the Goondocks properties many times over. And novelizations mentioned that the families used the leftover wealth to improve the Goondocks neighborhood. So in the book of the story telling of the film, they used the money to fix the neighborhood as well. And a touching bit of casting, several Goonies have had their real relatives in the final scene. Chunk's mother is played by his real mom, Elaine Cohen McMahon, and you can spot Chunk's real life sister, Ida Fey, as his aunt's sister is hugging him. Even the film's cinematographer, Nick McLean, makes a cameo as Mouth's father on the beach. And yes, the gray-haired deputy talking to the kids is Richard Donner in a cameo. He couldn't resist appearing in the happy ending. And then as they are all happy and celebrating, we see the Inferno sailing away. And he says, "Good God, Mary." What does he say? "Good Lord, Mary of God," or something like that. Mother of God. The film ends with the Cyndi Lauper song playing out. Because Goonies never die, bro. And that is our breakdown of the Goonies, my friend. What do you think of the film, Tone?
It's actually a great movie, and it's a great, like I said, it's cool that it all like kind of takes place within like this period. Like it's not like 5 days. Like me and my friends have had these conversations before, like where movies can only take place in 1 day, 4 days, a couple hours. This one only takes place, less than 24 hours. You know what I mean? It's cool, but it's cool all the stuff and all the turns and twists. It's a good one.
Yeah, total click kids film. Loved it. There's a lot of funny scenes in it. Chunk does have a lot of comedic scenes. He just annoyed me in certain areas, but very overall great flick. Highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Definitely check it out. The soundtrack's awesome. It's got that 80s vibe, but it still holds up to today. You want to get into some critical receptions and fans theories, Tony?
Let's do it.
You know that fat cocksucker says I look like the Shah of Iran?
Who does? Tony. I never got that at all.
So For a box office gross, domestic U.S. gross, The Goonies was a box office success in summer 1985, earning $61.4 million in its initial U.S. theatrical run. It was one of the top grossing films of 1985, ranking number 7 for that year. Subsequently, the anniversary re-releases in later years brought the total domestic gross to roughly $63.7 million. Inflation adjusted it to over $210 million, according to inflation of 2020. The international and worldwide gross to film's original international release was limited and only added about $800,000. With all territories and re-releases, the worldwide gross is approximately 64 to 65 million. Some sources have reported it slightly higher worldwide, holding around 69.7 million, reflecting later accounting. The budget was 19 million, thus the Goonies earned over 3 times its budget in its initial run, and about 3.7 times with lifetime grosses, a solid financial success for a mid-80s family adventure film. Crazy stuff, man.
Very cool.
And I think they're having a re-release showing to celebrate the 40-year anniversary coming up around June 7th. I believe at the end of May.
Awesome.
At the time of their release, The Goonies received mixed to positive reviews from critics. Many viewers praise its fun, adventure, and kid appeal, while some criticize its nosy, chaotic style. Janet Maslin of the New York Times wrote, "The Goonies doesn't even pretend to court the grown-up set, acknowledging it was unapologetic, aimed at children," according to GoGale.com. Maslin noted that there isn't a child in America who won't want to see The Goonies that summer, indicating a positive outlook for its target audience. Variety praised the film as being as enjoyable as a roller coaster ride, but also felt it become painfully syrupy in parts. One of the more negative sides, it surprised me, Roger Ebert gave the movie a middling review, describing it as a totally manipulative and laminating that had enough high energy without the sweetness of a film like E.T. Ebert noted the hectic pace and the fact that the screenplay has all the kids talking all at once all the time, which he found wearing. Other critics similarly commented on the constant noise and chaos. For example, Leonard Maltin called it exceptionally noisy, reflecting a common complaint. Still, many reviewers appreciated the youthful exuberance and imagination adventure at the film's core. What do you think about that, Son?
I never heard that about a movie before. That's a first tonight. Noisy. Especially when talking about a movie when that's exactly like the point. Like saying Stand By Me is noisy, you would never say that. That's kind of a quiet movie, but this movie's like an adventure. Like what's it's not supposed to, you know what I mean? And when you got all kids running the thing, that's the point.
I think it's really authentic though, because not all kids take their chance to talk.
Well, that too, you know what I mean? And to be fair, you know, I will even go against something I said at the beginning of the show. Listening to again for the umpteenth time in my life, some of those chunk scenes, he does deliver them well, that, you know, it holds the movie together pretty good.
Yeah, he's still not my favorite character.
Well, no, I mean, he's never going to be my favorite character. Yeah, but
Andy! You Goonies!
Andy! I think I'll keep that clip for later.
Now, real quick, the gentleman who plays that character, he actually plays Jesse in the Jesse's Girl Rick Springfield video.
Does he?
Girl. Yeah.
Man. So he loses Andy and Jesse? Jesus.
Yes.
Jesse must have been Jesse's Girl must have been a Goonie.
Yeah.
Over the years, the Goonie has been reappraised as a cult classic of 1980s cinema. It currently holds a 77 approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on compilatory and retrospective reviews, with a critics' consensus calling it an energetic, sometimes noisy mix of Spielbergian sentiment and funhouse tricks that will appeal to kids and nostalgic fans alike. Its Metacritic score stands in the low 60s, indicating generally favorable reviews. In hindsight, while some modern critics still find the film loud or juvenile when viewed for the first time as an adult, it frequently praised for capturing a certain 80s childhood magic for a generation of viewers who grew up with it. The Goonies remains as an entertaining adventure that never say die and later reviews often note its enduring charm and influence on the kids' adventure genre. I would say that it does have a big, influence on adventure because it was like one of the first cool kids adventure movies I remember.
It's true.
And I mean, what other ones can go for? Like I guess Treasure Island, Peter Pan.
Yeah, but those are all even, I mean, yeah, those wouldn't make me have this though. Peter
Yeah.
Pan's a little more. This isn't as serious, like you said. The joke in the beginning, there's little things to it that make it feel like you could be in it. I don't feel like I could be in Peter Pan. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a first for this type.
Yeah. So, in terms of cultural impact, the Goonies has a cult following and fan events. In the decades since its release, the Goonies has amassed a large fan base. The film's catchphrase, like rallying Goonies never say die, and the characters have become touchstones of 80s pop culture. Fans continue to celebrate the movie at special events and anniversaries, notably Astoria, Oregon, where the movie was filmed, hosts periodic Goonies Day festivals. For the 30-year anniversary in 2015, an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 fans flocked to Astoria, a town of only 10,000 residents. I'm pretty sure they were really happy about that. For a multi-day Goonies celebration, the reunion events have included actor panel discussions, tour of the filming locations, costume contests, outdoor screenings, and treasure hunts, all organized by the local community. Such anniversary celebrations have been going on since the 20th anniversary in 2005, showing again how popular this film is. I haven't seen what they're going to do for the 40th anniversary, but I will check on that later and talk about next show. Again, the filming locations are big for touring spots. In terms of merchandising, the Goonies spawned a wide array of merchandise and tie-ins that fueled its cult status. In 1980, several video games were released to capitalize the film's popularity. For example, Konami released The Goonies 2, which I never understood why it was The Goonies 2 on NES. I was always like, where the hell is The Goonies 1? But apparently that was released in Japan. Decades later, the film's characters still would appear as collectibles, Funko Pops, board games, aka the Goonies Never Say Die board game, apparel, and other memorabilia continue to be produced for nostalgic fans. I actually have a Brad and Sloth Funko Pops.
Do you? I was going to ask, is there a Sloth Funko Pop?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you don't have to find it now. Bring it next week.
Yeah, I think he might be packed away. I have a Brad and Sloth one I can show. References to Goonies commonly pop up in other media. Iconic lines like Sloth's yell of "Hey, you guys" is in TV shows and songs. The film's influence, especially as evident in later adventure stories centered for kids. For instance, the creator of Stranger Things has cited classic 80s films like the Goonies as a key inspiration for their own show, which I can see. The trope of band of misfits of a treasure-seeking quest can be seen echoed in numerous works from the 80s onward. Monster Squad, and then more recently Super 8. And the theme song, Goonies Are Good Enough by Cyndi Lauper, became a mid-80s MTV hit and add more to the legacy. So,
amazing.
But with every big hit, there's always talk of sequel attempts. Well, despite its popularity, Goonies never had an official film sequel, but not for lack of trying. Over the years, there have been persistent sequel rumors and development attempts. Director Richard Donner and producer Steven Spielberg have periodically discussed ideas for the Goonies 2. Spielberg acknowledged that folks involved with the Goonies have tried to get a new film going many times, but every couple of years we come up with the idea, but it doesn't hold water. Various sequel scripts or concepts floated around Hollywood. Corey Feldman, who played Mouth, once quipped that every few years, someone pitches him an idea. Donner himself sparked excitement in 2014 by telling TMZ that a sequel with the original cast was in the works, but nothing concrete materialized from that. One obstacle often cited is that the original child actors grew up, so finding a story that logically continues their adventures or passes the torch to the new generation proved difficult, and the filmmakers didn't want to tarnish the original legacy and subpar follow-up. In lieu of a sequel film, the franchise saw other creative revivals. In 2015, Donner announced plans for an immersive off-Broadway theater production of The Goonies, describing a live experience where audiences will explore the sets and interact with actors in a warehouse, science adventure. As of the late 2010s, the stage project was still in development, with Donner saying it will take another year or so, but it's going to be wonderful. An exciting prospect for fans, though it has yet to debut. There was also an attempt to bring a Goonies-inspired TV show to life in 2020. Fox ordered a pilot for a drama series about a group of kids reenacting the Goonies and filming it as a fan project. The meta concept, essentially a tribute within a new story, had backing from Warner Bros. And even Donner as the executive producer, but ultimately the network decided to pass on it. The original cast members, however, and we talked about this before, have never shied away from their Goonies legacy. Through the years, there have been numerous cast reunions, magazine spreads, and conventions brought the gang back together at 20 and 25-year milestones, including a memorable Empire magazine shoot in 2009 and an on-stage reunion panel in 2010. For the film's 30th anniversary in 2015, several actors, Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Ke-Huy Quan, and others, returned to the story for a big fan celebration. More recently, during the COVID-19 lockdown in 2020, actor Josh Gad hosted a popular Zoom reunion featuring the popular cast, Donner, and even Spielberg, a joyful element that delighted fans worldwide and raised money for charity. These reunions have continued, and they show the camaraderie of the Goonies. Now, Tom, we mentioned that there was actually talk about the sequel coming out or being made. We know that Josh Cohen's not going to come back as Chunk because he's an entertainment lawyer now. Do you think this is actually going to get made, or is this they should just let it just be as is?
I think and if it happened like this, I think I could be aboard as like if it was like a new group of kids. And somehow maybe like the Ghostbusters movies, the newer ones, they just work in some of these characters. Because I'm not, we did say Corey Feldman was a good actor. I'm not saying that now I would trust him to carry this movie. Honestly, the only one you're really going to get out, you got Josh Brolin and you got, how do you, I don't want to mess it up.
Ke-Huy Quan.
Yeah, and you got him, and those are really who all you have out of this group that are really going to act in this movie. And I guess you could say Sean Astin, but I guess if you wanted to, you could move Sean Astin over to Chunk now. No, that's rude. I'm sorry. That's not nice. That's not nice. You don't want to do that.
That deserves a wow from Christopher Walken. But I'm just gonna.
The point of the matter is that everybody isn't in the position anymore that they used to be. So the problem is that I have is that I don't know anything that I love. I don't know if they said we're doing Big Trouble in Little China and we got every single of the old actors, Lopan's playing Lopan, Thunder's playing Thunder, and I'm over here going, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, these guys are older. I mean, are they going to be in the same shape?
Shout out to David Lopan. He commented on our Big Trouble in Little China short.
That's true. But again, I'd have to wait and see a little bit more.
As would I. Even for Big Trouble in Little China, there were rumors that there was going to be a sequel coming out. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, his studio had picked it up, which caused a big time public outcry, even from John Carpenter. I'm sorry, I was reading Caitlinson. She said every time I watch 50 First Dates, I'm like, that can't be Mikey. Yeah, he was having weird wet dreams and doing steroids. But even he said that he wouldn't know what to do with it. It caused so much backlash that The Rock had to come out and say, "Oh, his character is not the new Jack Burton. This is a different." But even to the point where Kurt Russell has come out and said that he would be willing to come back as Jack Burton only if John Carpenter directs. And if they're going to do that, they have to get on that pretty quickly because both those men are in their 70s. Carpenter is in his late 70s.
Got some bad news. I personally, as any film producer, wouldn't hire Carpenter to do the movie. Because honestly, Carpenter's last 4 or 5 haven't really been great. And not only that, I don't think he can put together a production of what Big Trouble in Little China would need at this point.
I mean, you could bring him. I do agree with you there because Carpenter is older,
but he's good. I would put him on as like if he could be a producer.
If he comes on and you have like a Jordan Peele, I'm not a big fan of Jordan Peele stuff, but Jordan Peele's such a big fan
Yeah.
of John Carpenter. Like, I think those two would
I
match
go with
together
that.
really well, and he can maybe do something when Carpenter could be
I go with that.
executive producer on it. That'll be kind of cool. But to have them, it's probably not going to happen, but it'd be kind of cool. So the Goonies sequel, I highly doubt it's going to happen. But we can always think about it. And sometimes movies are not meant to have sequels, man. Just let it go.
It's true.
I say that, and yet I want a John Wick 5, even though he's dead. But we have a fan theory here. And the fan theory is by Street Choice 1038 from the good old cesspools of the Reddits of the movie fan theories. The fan theory is titled The Goonies. Data is descended from the pirate that escaped One-Eyed Willie's tunnels. Now, if you did watch the film, you could explain, they did ask the question in the film, well, how did the story get out? And he said, that's what I asked my dad. And he said, well, the guys had to get out, and that's how they got the story. Well, this is what Street Choice says. He says, it may not be the first to point out, but I couldn't find it anywhere else, so here it goes. In the movie The Goonies, Mikey and his Goonie pals find a map in Mikey's attic to pirate One-Eye Willie's buried treasure. The story, as recounted by Mikey, goes that Willie and his band of not-so-merry pirates were trapped in the caves off the Storious coast for years with their ship full of treasure, digging tunnels and setting booby traps with no one escaping. The kids immediately posited that someone must have escaped since the story had come out with the map, and we can assume this would have come to be true. We can also assume that the pirate that escaped would have had to have knowledge of the booby traps as well as either the architect of them or either assisted in building them. I would argue that he was the architect of the traps to know them so well so he could escape through them. More on that point later. I will guess that he was likely the last one standing during the final pirate massacre that the Goonies come upon centuries later. Once Willie and everyone else was dead, he was free to escape through the tunnels. He set the booby traps on the ship and made his way to the surface. He created a map to find his way back later. As the last of the surviving pirate, the treasure belonged to him, making him something of a king among lesser men. He settled in the area, took on a last name Wang, met a woman, had a family, and eventually forewent the need to go back to the treasure after all. His family became his treasure. He would tell his stories to his kids of his earlier pirate life on the high seas. As the architect of booby traps, he would pass along to his son his love for invention. This trait, this love for invention would be passed down from father to son for generations until we get the modern day Astoria and the current Wang family, of whom both father and son, i.e. Data and his father, live for building new and crazy inventions. Notice how Data's Rube Goldberg and other inventions so strongly resemble the ancient pirate booby traps and that the Goonies stumble upon during their journey to find the treasure. And Data's family name, Wang, translates to king in Spanish. What do you think about that?
Interesting.
Chinese, I'm sorry. Chinese.
Interesting. Very interesting. Could be. Could be.
I mean, it could, or he could be related to Wang from Big Trouble in Little China.
No, I like that. Now you know I like that.
But Wang's his first name.
You know where I'm standing, Wang? It's Miller time.
But I thought that was kind of cool. He tied everything together. It could be. I mean, Data's father did invent stuff, so who knows?
True.
There, Spielberg and Donner just got to look at this guy's theory. That could be a whole thing. And you have Ke Huy Quan finding out that his family was actually related to One-Eye Willie. That'd be a great sequel.
That is true. It'd be an amazing sequel.
So, Tom, with that closes up our chapter, our deep dive into the Goonies for its 40th anniversary. This is a long show, Tom. We're at 2 hours and 24 minutes, but we still have a little bit more left for you. But any final thoughts before we move on, my friend?
Really great, really amazing. And I totally forgot I wanted to point this out. Rewatching this for the show, it had been honestly a long time since I sat and I watched this. For the last 10 years, I've had this scene in my head from an 80s movie and I could not figure it out. It was in this movie. It was the toilet scene where he gets through the ceiling. I was like, what movie is that from? I should have just asked you for the last 4 years, and my brain wouldn't, because when I was watching, I was like, "This is from the toilet seat." I totally forgot it was in this movie. So, I thought that was awesome to re-see something that you've been thinking about, and honestly, just a lot of great performances by all these young actors in this.
Yeah, great. Wanted to shout out that guy's ass.
Yeah, let's give us one more here.
This is for you, Caitlin.
Andy! You Goonies!
Yeah, that Rocky Road.
Rocky Road.
But before we get to our closing segment of the Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week, Tone, tell everybody what's going on over at the Hookup, man.
The Hookup on music this past week, we dug into some different stuff. We talked about those Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. We also talked some Alice in Chains. We talked some new albums that have been released recently this week. We're also going to be digging into some stuff. We got some new albums we're going to be talking about. New Head in the Heart, brand new Arcade Fire. We're going to be covering a whole bunch of different stuff. Also, please keep looking out. I know we've been talking about it, but I'm feeling like really closely here, we're going to start pumping out some articles on the regular and not stop type of stuff. So keep looking out on the sadisticpenguinstudios.com for all different kinds of stuff and all the other awesome stuff that we're going to be working on.
Sheriff, look, this time I'm telling you the truth. I'm locked inside the Vitelli's basement with this guy. Sheriff, look, this time I'm telling you the truth. I'm locked inside the Vitelli's basement with this guy.
Rocky Road? Yeah!
I knew I had it somewhere.
I love that. What you got to do is you got to go into that and do me a favor, shorten it up to just him in the Rocky Road. And every time I say something silly, just put Rocky Road.
Oh, I will. I just haven't had time to edit it.
I know, that's good.
I edited that octopus scene. I clipped it and edited it out. Like I put that music to it. That was
good. That was good.
But yeah, be sure to check us out. We're going to be dropping blogs. We have Cotton that's going to be writing some stuff for us. Also, Adam will be writing some stuff for us. We'll be putting out blogs. We're trying to get a little more blog centric because, for one, it's easier to produce than videos. Even though I have a little more time on my hands, but blogs are kind of another way of me speaking a lot of BS and talking crap about everything. There'll be movie blogs out there, all sorts of stuff that's going to be coming out. Also, shout out to Keelan, who's been pumping out stuff on the Blue Sky, pumping old archived poster and blogs that she's been doing for us there, keeping that kind of going to give us a little outreach, a little reach there. Be sure to check out It's Getting Drafty in here. Brian is on a little sabbatical right now because of work, but he'll be coming back in a few weeks to have a show. But check out all the old shows. Mr. Hand dropped a collector's corner last week. Really, really good stuff. He's really, really popular on the TikToks, man. When I separate his clips into shorts, people love to watch his stuff and argue either with his takes on sports. But he gets like his clips are getting like 1,500 to 2,000 views on the TikTok, and our shorts are getting about that much on the YouTube. We actually surpassed, I believe, 390,000 channel views for a small channel, so that's pretty cool. And growing. So thank you for everyone who has supported us these past we're 3 years now, aren't we, Tom? 3 years?
Yeah.
So we really, really appreciate you guys. We are creeping up ever closely to that 100th episode. We got a couple ideas we're kind of spitballing around, but we'll be getting there. Be sure to check us out on Sadistic Penguin Studios as well. And thank you guys always for listening and watching. And with that, Tone, let's go straight into your segment.
The Sugar Baggies Soundtrack Pick of the Week.
I was going to keep playing that. We are going with some new metal soundtrack this evening. We're going to the Thomas Jane Punisher soundtrack, which I had totally forgotten about. And it was brought to my attention because some of these bands I've had on my playlist recently while I've worked out, but go to Queens of the Stone Age, Never Say Never, which is a real cool cover of a Romeo Void song from 1982. Which definitely I am a big, huge fan of Queens of the Stone Age. But the soundtrack itself was released in March 23rd, 2004. Can't believe this movie is that old already. A lot of different artists on here, ranging from metal, also like grunge metal, like Puddle of Mud, and there's even some Nickelback, yes. There's also Seether with Evanescence, Amy Lee, Smile Empty Soul, Trapped, Chevelle, Damage Plan, which were the gentlemen from Pantera, with Jerry Cantrell, Finger 11. What you just heard me play right there was the amazing Hatebreed, which I didn't even know Hatebreed was ever on a soundtrack until I was doing research for this, because I probably haven't listened to this since 2003. But again, it's interesting, like we were talking about the Goonies earlier, that I didn't even remember that this soundtrack was even around until I was at a UCD store and I picked it up and I was like, oh yes, I did remember this came out. So I just thought it would be an interesting one to talk about tonight, because it's another one that kind of like sneaks under the radar with some new metal, hard rock, post-grunge, alternative metal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. I totally forgot Slow Chemical was on there, and Jim Johnston, who wrote the song along with Finger 11, which I thought was crazy. He's credited onto, at least on Wikipedia, is that song was used for Kane for his entrance for like a long time. That's probably like my favorite entrance song to him.
See, I didn't even see. That's awesome facts right there that you're sharing here. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he came out with Finger 11. Yeah. But just so many, like Drowning Pool, Puddle of Mud, Nickelback, Queens of the Stone Age, Seether. I really like Seether. Amy Lee, Evanescence. There's so many good people on here. I'm like, I totally forgot. This movie is horrible.
Oh,
I know it's one of King Ass's favorites, but it's horrible. But yeah, the soundtrack is awesome. So it follows that genre. Horrible movie, great soundtrack.
The one thing I will say is that I just always think about the amazing John Travolta's bad guy turn in the movie, which is just really ridiculous.
And he kills his wife.
Oh man.
Doesn't he throw her on a train or something like that?
Oh man, I saw it once and I've kind of haven't seen it again since then.
I think the last time I watched it was when Sam came on to defend it. But
if you watched it again after that, that would have been interesting. Because that would have meant you would have watched this Punisher within like 4 months of each.
No, no. John Travolta playing bad guy gangsters. I mean, he was horrible in Gotti too. Howard Saint was his name. Oh God. But good soundtrack, Tom. Good pick, man.
Thank you.
And with that is the closing of our show. We thank you so much again for listening, watching, commenting. Shout out to Caitlin Reed. Shout out to Roxy, who's on her bachelorette party. Shout out to Sam out there in their comments. If you want to join in the comments, just hit us up on the YouTubes. We go live every Friday, unless noted, at 8:15 p.m. at the Sadistic Penguin Studios YouTube. You can jump in the comments there, and we'll read you out what you're saying and all that good stuff. And what the last thing we're going to do before we leave is say this.
Andy! You Goonies!
Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the At The Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?